Hello to all fans of Naruto Lemon. I will post all Naruto Lemon Yaoi, Yuri, or Naruto Lemon stories only on the Boosty channel because Uncle YouTube condemns this. Therefore, I invite everyone who wants Naruto Lemon content to my Boosty channel. Good luck.
お前はどこまで見えている。俺の死に様か。
My best friend's cousin. Long blonde hair flowed gently down her back, her beautiful figure accentuated by the slightly sexy uniform mandatory for the female students of Otogakure High. She stood in front of the school's gates talking to a blue-haired woman as she waited for her siblings. I'll ask Nagato and I if we could go visit you sometime during the holidays. I'd like that, Konan-chan, but I should tell you we probably won't have time to hang out the first month or so. That wouldn't be problem, the blue-haired girl told her. We might have some things to do as well, so we'll go during the last month, if he lets me. We could go shopping, or just hang out, or dash. A blonde eyebrow rose as her friend stopped talking. Crystal blue eyes noted the way the others widened in surprise. What dash? Her question was cut off as she was pulled back into a broad chest and a chin rested atop her head as two strong arms wrapped around her waist. I'll see you later, Naru, a childish voice shouted as the boy ran towards the school. Akira? You'll see him later. She recognized the voice that came from the person who had embraced her so intimately. Obito? Stating the obvious, I see, she smiled at the deep chuckle that rumbled in his chest. What are you doing here? Can't I come to see you? He asked, and then whispered to her disguised as a kiss on top of the golden locks. Actually, there's someone I would like you to meet. Obito Niken, an excited voice interrupted before she could react properly. Dei-chan, the dark-haired male released the older sister from his embrace in time to catch the blonde-haired 4-year-old who had launched himself at the pair. How have you been? Meanwhile, Naru turned her attention to her friend who was still frozen in shock. Konan-chan, are you alright? What dash? She asked, unable to form the question she so wanted to ask. It's complicated. That's because you make it complicated, a haughty voice once again interrupted their conversation. Shut up, Q. It's true though, the red-headed girl defended. Things don't have to be complicated. Stop talking, or do I need to remind you about Shukuin? The 10-year-old promptly shut up at the mention of her best friend/crush. Q-chan, I want to borrow your sister for the afternoon. Don't ask permission from me, you gotta ask Tu-chan. I did, I was just telling you. Dark eyes shone with mischief as he continued. Oh, could you take care of Akira for me? No. Hugh protested loudly at the mention of the dark-haired 6-year-old that had a crush on her. Come on, Q, it's just a crush. Her older sister tried to convince her. Akira-kuin's here? The excited blonde on top of Obito's shoulders asked happily. See, Dei-chan likes him. I don't care, those two are way too hyper when they're together. I could help you babysit them, the blue-haired woman who was apparently forgotten by the group finally spoke up. Her gaze avoided the only man and she looked intently at the red-haired, red-eyed girl. Oh fine. Hugh sighed in defeat. No matter what I say, you'll still kidnap Narune anyway. Go ahead, take her and leave me to my doom. Stop whining, Q-chan. Whatever, can we just go? She huffed impatiently. The car's here. Here comes Akira-chan. Narumi said, cerulean eyes lighting up with amusement as her younger sister grumbled all the way to their vehicle. Akira, you go with Q-chan and Dei-chan, I'll pick you up later when I drop off Narune. Okay, Obito nii. The 6-year-old boy ran excitedly to the vehicle to catch up with the others. I'll tell Nagato to pick you up, Konan. The dark-haired man turned his attention towards his ex. Thanks. Was all she said before following the children into the car. The pair stood watching the vehicle leave. You two still haven't patched things up? Naru turned her attention to her best friend as soon as they were out of sight. I just don't dash. She's been telling me that she wants to talk to you, but she just can't get the courage to do it. I don't want to talk about it. Fine, she said. Care to tell me who else is waiting for me then? My girlfriend's in the car and I promised her I'd introduce you to her. Okay, she started to walk away from him and towards the car in which he and his brother had come. Zox 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 zox. What's up with you and Naru? With his blue hair, pale complexion, and shark-like teeth, Suigetsu looked menacing as he questioned Obito. That's how you're going to greet me? His short dark hair bobbed in time with his head. I come to visit and that's the first thing you ask me. I'm sorry Obito, the shark-like man laughed jovially at the banter. It's just weird seeing you all close to her when you weren't even friends before you left. Just because you don't know doesn't mean we weren't, Obito muttered. Anyway, how have things been? Zox 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 zox. Are you Rin? She asked as she slid into the woman who was sitting silently in the car. The brown-haired woman nodded and smiled at her. You must be Naru. That's me, she agreed. Can I ask you something? I guess so. Do you by any chance know Kiba? Yes, he's my cousin, Rin agreed. How did you know? The tattoo, she pointed to the red triangles on the woman's cheeks. You must be close to him then. I am, cerulean eyes softened as she remembered her friends. He's one of my best friends back in Konoha. So where are you really from? I'm actually from Konoha. We moved here 3 years ago because my dad got a job. What about you? I'm from Konoha as well, but I haven't been there for a long time. The brown-haired woman tried to suppress the yawn that followed but was unable to. You're tired. When did you and Obito get here? We came directly from the airport. He's so stupid sometimes, blonde hair swished as she shook her head. I'll go get him so we can get you home. Thanks. Zox 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 zox. Suigetsu, we should be going. Dark orange hair and tall built, the man who spoke had quite the imposing stance. Karen will be home soon and she won't be happy if we're not there to greet her. Alright Jugo, the blue-haired man replied. I swear that brat gets brattier every year. Give her a break Suigetsu, Obito said. She's only what, 10 years old? They're supposed to be bratty. He laughed at his friend's expense. Just think when she starts to have a boyfriend. Oh hell no. Suigetsu exclaimed. That's not happening on my watch. Obito, the group turned toward the blonde who was running towards them. What's up Naru? You idiot, she smacked the dark head as soon as she got into range. Let's get going, you know not to keep a lady waiting, and a tired lady at that. You're not a lady, Suigetsu muttered but she heard. Shut up Suichan, Naru shot back. You better make your move soon, she won't be single forever. She relished in the bright blush her inclination elicited from him. What are you talking about? Oh please, the whole school knows you have the hots for Tayuya-chan. I do not, his indignant denial was overcome by the blush. I don't care, let's go Obito. Sorry guys, I have to go, he grabbed her hand as he turned his attention towards them. My lady awaits, the pair left a befuddled audience as they trooped towards the car. Why didn't you take her home first? She berated him as they walked hand in hand. She's exhausted. Well, I needed your help. With her? She stopped abruptly. I don't think you need my help, she's devoted to you. No, not with her, he shook his head as he tugged on her hand to get her to walk again. With someone else. Who? You'll see when we get home. He's been here for 2 weeks. Alone? Yes, he's running. Relationship gone wrong? Got it in one. You never come to me about anything else. Again, who is he? She asked as they climbed into the car on opposite sides with Rin in between them. My cousin. Which one? Why do you assume it's either one of those two? Because they're the closest to you and you don't bother with the rest of your arrogant clan. Okay, what exactly do you want me to do with him? I don't know, he answered as his tired girlfriend snuggled to his side and laid her head on his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her waist in response. Work your magic, I guess. Why do you assume I have magic? I don't assume, I know, He looked straight into crystal blue as he said. After all, I did everything you told me to get a girl and now I'm happy with Rinchan. Then I guess I have you to thank for landing me this gorgeous young man, Rin smirked at the blonde. There's no need to thank me, Naru said in reply. After all, if he was just my type I wouldn't have let him go. She smirked as her dark-haired best friend blushed. We're here. Their driver said as they entered the gates to the large manor. Can you please tell me why you kidnapped me from my siblings when you know full well I haven't finished packing and we're leaving for Konoha tomorrow? A loud crash resounded through the car as it was parked across the front door of the house. You'll see, he sighed heavily as they disembarked and ran through the door towards the living room. He's drunk again. There in the middle of the living room stood a tall young man with long dark hair splayed out wildly. In his hand was a bottle of vodka, the other clenched into a fist and bleeding. Naru stared in shock at the destruction of the living room. The sofa set was upturned, frames and broken glasses littered the floor. On the far corner she could see Obito's favorite mirror smashed with splashes of red. She returned her gaze towards the man whose head hung low and shoulders shook. Itachi. He looked up, onyx meeting sapphire, and she flinched at the pain swimming in those orbs. Hey! No other word was appropriate for that moment as she stepped towards the broken man. The only other woman moved to stop her, but her boyfriend caught her hand and shook his head. Let her do it, he mouthed. What's up? Even in her mind it sounded lame, but at least it got his attention. Stay the hell away from me. He snarled angrily, deep dark eyes flashing red, but she wouldn't back down. You want to talk about it? She continued her advance despite the warning. I don't want to talk, he hissed. I don't want you to come near me. It gets better when you talk. What do you know? She had reached him, standing close enough that he flinched away from her. You're hurt, she said as she reached for the bottle of alcohol in his hand. Something happened to hurt you, but I can help. You can't help me, he let her take the bottle. He was so tired, he just wanted to die or sleep or do anything to stop the pain he felt. I can. She took his hand in hers, her gaze never breaking away from his. Trust me. Why? So many questions he wanted to ask in a single word, but none of them came out. Her hand was so warm as his larger one enveloped it. I want to. She tugged on his hand and led him towards the stairs. Where are we going? He asked even as he followed, unwilling to pull away from the woman who gave him so much warmth. To your room, she walked ahead of him, her hand in his trailing behind her. He didn't say anything more, just let her lead him wherever because those crystal blue eyes promised him that she would never hurt him. Just lie down, she pushed on his shoulder gently. Let me take care of you. Cerulean met onyx and she knew what he was asking. Don't worry about anything, I promise I will take care of you. He didn't reply, simply nodded and did as told. She rose from the bed but she tumbled over when he tugged at her wrist. She fell on top of him, their gazes clashing once more. She couldn't do anything but blush as she looked within the dark depths of his eyes, and without noticing, he had rolled them over and was then hovering atop her. Itachi dash was all she could get out before he fastened his mouth on hers, his hands leaving her back to trail at her hips. She moaned lightly as he massaged her sides, his answering growl rumbling in his chest. This is not how I wanted it to be, she thought even as she moaned once more into the kiss. Why does it have to feel so good? Her eyelids fluttered open as his large hands enveloped her clothed breasts. I have to stop him. Her arms snaked around his neck, entangling on the long dark strands as she put more emotion into the kiss. Nimble fingers pressed lightly on the pulse point, their owner sighing deeply as the man slumped atop her. Her attention turned towards the door to find that the doorknob was shaking. Itachi locked the door, her best friend's frantic voice reached her tired ears. Calm down Obito, a gentler, softer voice said. They wouldn't have done anything, would they? When Itachi's drunk, she couldn't hear anymore as the footsteps took the people away from the door. She turned her attention back to the man on top of her. I wonder what happened, she said softly as she continued to run her hands through the silky locks. She was too tired to move him, so she simply stayed there waiting for her best friend to eventually open the door. Naru, are you? Obito froze. His best friend lay there calmly running her hands through his cousin's dark locks. She didn't seem fazed by the fact that Itachi was laying on top of her or that Obito was already in the room. "Will you tell me what happened?" The question came out of the blue, and yet Obito understood. Why not? He could only chuckle at her one-track mind. "Come on, let's get you up." "Can you move him?" "What happened?" "He pounced," was all she said, and yet he knew what she was saying. "Just push him on his side or something." Fine, fine," he shrugged his shoulders but did as told anyway. "Come on," he offered her his hand and pulled her up. He held a hand up to his mouth as she was once again pulled back by Itachi. This time, she landed beside the bed with her skirt on the floor and wearing a loose blouse. "Stop laughing," Cerulean glared at Onyx. "This is not funny." "Of course it is," he continued to laugh, unaware of the dark brown eyes widening with each moment. "I'm guessing you haven't told Rin how we met." Onyx's eyes widened as realization dawned on him while footsteps receded behind him. "Go on, you have to tell her." "Everything?" "Yes, you have to tell her everything." His shoulders slumped, but he walked determinedly out of the room. As the door closed behind him, she turned her attention back to the man who had her captured in his arms. "You're a troublesome man, Uchiha Itachi," she whispered as she relaxed her half-naked body in his hold. "It Naru," she berated herself. "You're an 18, soon-to-be 19-year-old young woman. In all those years you have never gone gaga over a guy, so why start now?" "But then Itachi isn't just a guy, is he?" There was a teasing voice responding to the war she started with herself. "Come to think of it, he's not a boy either. And I'm sure you noticed he's all man." "Stop thinking about it, Naru," she whispered harshly. "You have to get out of his hold because his hand is bleeding." She reminded herself and then proceeded to find a way to do just that. Zock 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 hex. "I'm not happy with the way things went when you met. If you had been, I wouldn't let you stay with him." "What would you do?" "Trust me," she told her best friend's girlfriend. "I would have found a way to break the two of you up." "I'm a little afraid of you now," Rin admitted. "Yes, well," sheepish blue eyes turned to inquiring brown. "I'd do anything to protect him, he's been hurt enough." "How much do you know about Obito?" "I know everything he told me," Naru admitted. "And frankly, that's his whole life. He trusts you." "And I trust him," the blonde shook her head. "Our relationship is confusing to others because it's intimate and yet not in a romantic way, but it's deeper than just siblings. I have to admit, I'm easily a jealous girl, but I understand where you guys are coming from." "Naru-chan, Kushina's on the phone," Obito announced as he stepped into the living room and approached the two women sitting on the now upturned couch. "Thanks," she said as she grabbed the phone while her best friend sat next to his woman. "Hi Mom." "Naru-chan, I heard Obito's in town." "Yeah, I'm at his house right now." "Your father told me that you're staying over?" "I hadn't really planned on it because I haven't finished everything dash." "Don't worry about packing," Kushina cut her off. "I can do the rest. I'm on my way home now. Stay with Obito and we'll drive by tomorrow so you won't have to come back home." "Demo Ka-chan," she tried to protest. "You two haven't seen each other in a year," Kushina reasoned. "Spend time with him and we'll pick you up tomorrow." "Arigato Ka-chan," she smiled at her thoughtfulness. "I'll see you tomorrow." Aishitaru. "So what's the verdict?" Obito asked, grinning happily at her. "What did you tell my mom?" "I said I missed you and wanted to spend time with you." She fell for it, she returned the grin he sported. "They'll be coming by to pick me up tomorrow." "I knew it," he jumped from his seat and started to do a silly victory dance. "Whatever," the blonde shook her head in amusement. "I'm going to raid your closet for sleep clothes." "Okay, just don't take too long," he nodded. Rin just looked from one to the other, happy that her love had someone else who loves him. Zock 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 hex. "Rin sleeping with you tonight." They sat in front of the large television in Obito's room. "Why, curious blue eyes turned towards the pair. Don't you two sleep together? The couple blushed at the words and Naru chuckled. Eki. Obito pointed at his best friend, face blazing red. Hey, I meant just sleeping, she raised her hands in defense. You're the one who thought what you're still thinking. Rin hid her face in her hands as her boyfriend spluttered at the grin the blonde girl was sporting. Can she just sleep in your room? Whatever, she laughed at the pair. I'm going to bed. She turned her attention towards Rin and asked, Are you coming? Why yeah, Rin stuttered her answer as she rose from her position next to her boyfriend. She gave him a quick peck before running after the cheery blonde. Are you doing? Naru asked as soon as the brown-haired woman shut the door. What do you mean, what am I doing? Don't you trust Obito? She questioned as she led the way into her room. What? Rin didn't like where the questions were going, but she couldn't stop the blonde. Of course I trust him, she said indignantly as she watched Naru plop down on her bed. Then why don't you sleep with him? The retort was quick and the Inuzuka didn't know whether or not she would answer. He won't do anything, trust me, I know. How would you know? Dark brown eyes narrowed. I've done it countless times, she flipped her long blonde hair then continued without looking at her guest. I just love running my hands through his hair, the way his abs feel against my back when we spoon dash. She trailed off at the intense glare being sent her way. I thought you said nothing happened between you two. Rin stalked the blonde, pushing the door close as she did. Nothing did, Naru ignored her and continued talking nonchalantly. But he doesn't wear a shirt when he sleeps, says it's uncomfortable and restricting. And his hair? It's soft and spiky and I'm curious. It Naru, thoroughly diffused, Rin sat next to her. Don't do that to me. If you know Kiba as well as I think you do, then you know how Inuzukas get when it's about their mate. She flushed as soon as she realized what she'd said. So you think of him as your mate, do you? She was only teasing and yet she was serious as cerulean locked with chocolate pools. You said you trust him, so what's the matter? I do trust him, Rin looked down unable to meet the sapphire gaze. It's me I don't trust. Her cheeks flared at her admission and Naru had to bite the inside of her cheek to stop herself from laughing. Rin-chan's a hentai, she pointed at the brown-haired girl. Stop, she shouted as the blonde rolled around the bed laughing her heart out. You know he won't do anything unless you ask him to, Naru said seriously as soon as her laughter died down. He's a gentleman and it's a trait I've always loved about him. Naru, she was unsure about what she wanted to ask but continued anyway. Do you really love him? Of course I do, Naru said. But not in the way you're thinking. He's my big brother and yet he's not. It's difficult to explain, but suffice it to say that I love him but I would never love him. You're right, that is confusing. What are you still doing here? What do you mean? Your boyfriend's in the other room with no company, Naru said. And you're sitting here chatting with me? I still don't get it. If you don't want to keep him company, she rose from the bed. Maybe I will. I haven't seen him for over a year and I have missed him. Before she even finished, Rin had run out of the room and left the door open. Hook, line, and sinker, Naru smirked smugly as she put on a robe over the large shirt and boxers she'd stolen from Obito's cabinet. She turned off the lights as she walked out of the room. Zock sock 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 hex. What did you tell her? She never turned away from looking up at the stars even as his best friend lay beside her on the futon she had put on the roof. Nothing, she replied as she laid her head on his chest. I believe you, sarcasm laced his voice even as he wrapped his arms around her. Why are you asking me? She snuggled closer to his warmth. Did she do something? You don't need to know what she did, he stuttered, and even without looking she knew he was blushing. Come on, she leaned one hand on his chest as she half rose to look at his face. What did she do? He couldn't seem to form the words. Oh, I get it, she flashed him her trademark grin. She came on to you, didn't she? What did you tell her? Onyx glared into cerulean, the blonde staring back unflinchingly. I didn't say anything, she once more assumed her position on her chest. I certainly didn't tell her to jump you. Obito pinched her side. We talked about girl stuff dash. Since when did you talk about girl stuff? Shut up, she smacked his chest. I told her some stuff to reassure the girl. She's conscious about your relationship with me, so I had to say something. You're not going to tell me, are you? Nope. Whatever you said, thank you. You're welcome, she replied. What happened? The sudden solemn tone had him staring at the golden locks. Itachi was so in love, Obito began. Her name was Kasumi. She's a beautiful girl with an equally beautiful personality, or so we thought. She kept silent as he continued. They'd been together for 3 years. How old is Itachi? He's turning 22 next month. Oh. Yeah, anyway, Fugakuji-san suffered a heart attack 2 years into their relationship, and as the eldest Itachi had to take up the mantle of being Uchiha Corps president. Obito said. He became so busy that he barely had any time for social life, and Kasumi couldn't understand that. We didn't know at the time, but she started playing around. Itachi never noticed because he was so busy, and at the same time he was too blinded by his love for her he couldn't believe. He didn't even think of the notion that she would ever cheat on him. Was he happy? He was so happy whenever he was with her, Obito admitted. It was like a different Itachi every time we see them together, but everything changed on their 3rd anniversary. You, yourself know that Uchihas find it very difficult to express their emotions, and as you always say, I must have defective DNA because of it. Itachi coming from the head family was all Uchiha, but that changed when he met Kasumi. On the night of their anniversary, he received a call from our cousin and Itachi's closest friend, Shursui. Shursui's voice was neither calm nor collected, but Itachi never noticed because he had been planning for months to propose and he was going to do it that night. She was pregnant with Shursui's child, he didn't have to say it. Naru was smart enough to deduce what happened. For months, Obito nodded solemnly as he embraced her tighter, noting the way her hands tightened into fists at his bare chest. When Itachi got home, he was surprised to see Shursui there, and when he and Kasumi explained, Itachi just nodded and told them thank you for telling him in person. That's it? He didn't want to show them how hurt he was, Obito said. He wouldn't show him weakness after their betrayal. He then told them to let themselves out as he left them gaping in his living room. Then, for the first time in his life, stoic and unemotional Itachi Uchiha broke down and cried. He got so drunk, he didn't know how he reached my place and aim. He went to your place and aim? He did. I still don't know how he drove from Konoha to aim without killing himself, but he got there, and when he told me the story he was crying so much I didn't know what to do. How long ago did this happen? 6 months ago. What set him off? Shursui and Kasumi were married only a month after they told Itachi. Itachi avoided them both and tried to get his life back on track, but there are those whom he cannot fool. He sighed deeply as he remembered. Sasuke and Fugaku forced Itachi on leave last month after they found out that Kasumi had given birth to twins. I assume Sasuke has taken over for the time being? He has, Obito said. Itachi didn't really want to take over Uchiha Corp, but at the time Sasuke was still too young to manage the company. In truth, Itachi is more interested in producing artists and such, and it was Sasuke who was groomed to be the next president. It was only a sad sequence of events that led them to where they are now. Why did you bring him here, to me? You're the only one who can help him get his life back. Obito said. And frankly, you're the only one I want around him. Don't think I don't know that you fell in love with Itachi the photo and the Itachi from my stories. WW what? Just like I can't hide anything from you, you can't hide anything from me either. How long have you known? Her face heated up as he chuckled in reply. I've known from the very start. Why didn't you say anything? She smacked him on his chest again. What would I have said? He rubbed his bare chest, which was already starting to get red from all the hits it has been taking. Hey Naru-chan, I know you're in love with my cousin even if you haven't met him. Obito, he caught her slender hand as she attempted to hit his chest again. You should have said something. 1. Stop hitting me, he said. And 2, I didn't want to say anything because at the time he was still with Kasumi. By the way, Naru, you know that cousin of mine that you have a crush on? Yeah, he has a girlfriend and he's going to propose to her soon. I didn't want to hurt you, I won't ever hurt you, he said fiercely as he tightened his embrace even more. I missed you, Obito-kun. I missed you too, Naru-chan. You should go back to your room, Naru told her dark-haired friend. I don't want Ren thinking we're doing things we shouldn't be doing. She was already asleep when I left her, but even as he said that, he released her from his hold so he could rise from the futon. Still, you should sleep. You should too, he retorted as he placed a gentle kiss atop golden locks. You have a flight tomorrow, don't you? I'll be in soon. Don't stay up too late. Yes, Dad. She smiled at the half-hearted glare sent in her direction as he climbed in through the window. I promise, Itachi, I will protect you. Her voice was carried by the wind into a room where a pale man with long dark hair slept fitfully as his dreams were plagued of blurry images that he knew once hurt him. I'll take care of you. The gentle caress of her voice calmed his racing heart and he fell into a dreamless slumber, awaiting the day to come. What is up with you, bright green eyes and bloody red hair? Her companion was a man others would consider hot. This past month you've been sighing and staring off to space, he trailed off at the heated glare sent his way. Don't look at me like that, you've been doing this a lot. Stop asking me that. She protested, cerulean orbs blazing. Why is everyone asking me that? They're worried, he explained. As am I, he continued after the blonde woman sighed. It's a guy, isn't it? He watched as the blush ran through her cheeks and across her nose. It's not, she said even as she refused to look at the man driving. I get it, he said. You don't want to talk about it. There's nothing to talk about. She stared straight out the window and eyebrows rose when she noticed an unknown vehicle that was parked in front of her house. Do you have a visitor, Naru-chan? I don't know, Gaara, sarcasm dripped in her tone. I mean, I've been with you the whole day. I get it, all right, he said as he parked next to the unknown car. I'll walk you in. You really don't have to do that. I would really like to. He disembarked and went over to her side to assist her. Why? She asked even as she took his hand. My house is right there. I feel like it. More like you feel like seeing who's here. I don't dispute that. Gaara agreed even as he pulled her out and closed the door. They were quiet as they walked down the pathway to the front door. Here's the door, you can leave now. Not happening, he opened it ahead of her. Beside, I want to see Q&A. Really? She was skeptical as she asked. Deidara annoys you and you never talk to Q. Just get inside, Naru-chan, and I'm gonna look for your blonde chibi. Fine, she huffed. He's probably in his room. Alright, he said, and they separated ways. Naru headed towards the kitchen while Gaara went straight to the second floor where the bedrooms were located. Ka-chan, Tu-chan, she called out. Is that you, Naru? She heard her mom answer. Hi, Ka-chan, she replied as she entered the dining room. Obito and the others arrived today. We picked them up at the airport. The red-haired woman rose from her seat to embrace her eldest child. I should have been home earlier, Ka-chan, Naru hugged her back. I forgot you and Tu-chan were leaving for Kiri today. We don't have to leave, Naru, Kushina replied. If you need us here, we can stay. No, you and Tu-chan haven't had time to yourselves for a while. Naru was stern even when she was speaking to her own mother. But Ka-chan, there's nothing to worry about. I promise you, Deidara, Kyubi, and I will be fine. I know that, it's just that I worry. I know, Ka-chan. Now why don't you and Tu-chan go to bed, she suggested. You will have to get an early start to make up for lost time. Let me just clean this up while you take care of your guests. I'll take care of that, Ka-chan, just go. Arigato, Naru-chan. Aishidaru, Ka-chan, she pushed her mother towards the entrance of the dining room. Thank you for talking to your mother, Naru. Her older, male version said as he approached her. It was no problem, Tu-chan. Take care of your siblings, alright? Minato reminded her. Hi to-chan, she said as he kissed her forehead. Good night and please try to keep it down because people are already asleep. Minato turned to the guests. Obito, he stared at her daughter's brown-haired best friend. Minato. Obito screeched in protest. The group laughed at the expense of Obito as Naru's parents left the room. So what brings you guys here? Naru turned her attention towards the people who had come to see her. I told you we'd come. Obito rose to wrap his arms around her and whisper, I missed you Naru-chan. I missed you too Obito-kun. I feel a bit left out now. Rin pouted as she stared at the scene. Baby girl I'm leaving now, another voice intruded upon the scene. I found Daichan but he was already asleep so I didn't wake him. Gaara entered the kitchen, eyes narrowing as he saw Obito with his arms wrapped around Naru. Gaara-kun, remember Obito-kun? Naru asked as she broke away from the embrace to let them shake hands. This is Rin, his girlfriend, she directed him towards the only other female in the room. And this is Itachi, his cousin. She turned her attention towards the man whom she hadn't acknowledged the presence until now. Obito, how have you been? I've been great. You finally moved on, huh? Can we please not talk about that? Obito scratched the back of his head as a bright flush ran across his nose. Alright, you're the boss. Gaara said and then turned to the brown-haired woman. Nice to meet you Rin, I hope the idiot here doesn't break your heart otherwise we'll break his nose. Hey! Charming aren't you? Rin giggled at Gaara's antics. I try my best. Naru wondered slightly what had happened to open up Gaara's playful attitude. Anyway, I think I should go. He turned his attention back towards the blonde woman completely ignoring the other man in the room. Irika will kill me if I'm not home by 11. As if, Naru snorted. He knows you're with me so he probably won't worry as much. Actually, he'll worry more about you than me but let's not keep the man waiting. If you say so. Walk me to the door. Why? What if I get assaulted on my way there? Gaara smirked mockingly at her. Who would want to assault you? You wound me Naru-chan. Obito and Rin simply watched the interaction, their eyes straying over to their other companion who was silently seething with jealousy at the banter. Come on just walk me to the door, please? Alright, fine, you're still stupid you know? And yet you still love me, Gaara retorted as she took his hand. Who's stupid now? She pinched his side as they walked to the door. Unknown to the two they were accompanied by the others as they did. By Gaara-kun, Naru said as he embraced him. Be careful on your way home. Good night Naru-chan, he kissed her forehead fully aware that they had an audience. She kissed his cheek in response before he left. The blonde stayed leaning on the door jamb until his car couldn't be seen anymore. Baby girl, her best friend's mocking voice went through the haze of her thoughts. It's a nickname, like an endearment. Naru replied as she closed the door. He picked it up when he went on vacation in America. She said as she turned towards them. You like him? The couple said simultaneously. I like who? She asked even when she knew. She walked past them towards the kitchen. Gaara, they said as they followed. You think I like Gaara? We know you like Gaara. What got you to that conclusion? He kissed you and you kissed him back. They spoke simultaneously once more. Where exactly did he kiss me? On the forehead? Which means? He loves you like a little sister. Exactly, she said. Now what about sleeping arrangements? She patted her hands on the towel after finishing the dishes. She sat down on one of the chairs watching her guests' reactions to her question. How many guest rooms do you have? Only 2, she said. Then we have a problem. Obito announced. What's the problem? I can't share with Obito. Rin offered. And why not? Naru asked. You're together aren't you? And that's exactly why, Obito said. Let's move on. I'm not sharing with Itachi. Why not? I just don't want to. Alright then so you and Rin will get the rooms, Itachi will stay with me. Are you sure? Yes, unless you have a problem with that Tachi-kun. She batted her eyes at him, smiling softly at the long-haired man. There's no problem, he smirked at her, those thin pink lips curving slightly upwards making her knees weak and would probably have let her fall had she been standing. Alright then, she turned away coughing slightly to keep her blush hidden from them. Hey Rin, what are you planning to do? I want to go shopping, will you come with me? I don't really like to shop. Obito mentioned that once. Rin nodded sagely. You know what? What? I think you're a guy. And I think you're a girl, so I guess we're even. The men chuckled softly at the banter. Tell me again why you don't sleep with Obito. SSSS, shut up. Obito screeched. It's a simple question. She shrugged. Cece, can we please stop talking about it? Obito continued even as his best friend began laughing. That's just precious. I agree. The deep baritone of the man she'd been fantasizing about interrupted her laugh. Why don't you two sleep together? She asked again. You're together and yet you don't sleep together. She erupted into a fit of laughter once more, sending the dark-eyed, dark-haired man into deep chuckles that reverberated through her. Naru, the frightened voice of a young boy, stopped her laughter. What's going on? Daichan, I have some visitors. She rose from her seat to kneel in front of his younger brother. What's wrong? It's past midnight. I had a nightmare. Hey, it's alright, she pulled him into an embrace. It was just a bad dream. Bibi, but it was so real, he sobbed onto her shoulder. Hey, she pushed him away to look him in the eyes. It wasn't real, okay, he nodded, sniffling as he shook his head. Tell you what, I'll get you to bed, alright? Naichan, don't leave me please, his sobs resurfaced, light blue eyes watering as he stared up into identical ones. I'm here, Chibi. She embraced him tighter and rose from her kneeling position, carrying him with her. It will be all right. I'm guessing it's time for bed, Obito said as he too rose. You guys can find the rooms, she nodded at her best friend. I'm taking him to bed. Zox 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 zox. I'm sorry it took so long. I'd only just gotten him to sleep, she said as she entered the guest room where her best friend was staying in. He was really shaken up. It's no problem, Naru-chan, Obito said as he patted the spot next to him on the bed. You had to take care of him. How are things with you and Rin? She asked as she laid her head on his shoulder. We're doing fine, he embraced her closer. You know, I think you'll make a great wife someday. Thank you, she said. But why do you say that? You can keep house, you're great with children and hot to boot. Don't let Rin hear you say that, she might get jealous. He opened his mouth to interrupt, but she continued without waiting for him to say anything. And whatever you say, she will still get jealous. If you say so, he said. Now why don't you grab a shower? We can find our way. Besides, the beds have already been made, so we won't have any problems. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, alright? Good night, Naru-chan. Good night, Obito-kun. Zox 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 zox. Have you seen Naru? Itachi walked out of the bedroom he was supposed to be sharing with their host and found his cousin outside the bedroom assigned to him. It's been an hour and she hasn't come to her room. Check Deidara's room, Obito instructed him. She might still be there. Which way? It's down the hall, the last door on the left. Thank you, his long dark hair swished behind him as he followed the directions. He silently noted that the door was ajar and pushed it open to see inside the room. It was a typical boy's room, a basket of toys at the end of the car-shaped bed, a door that could be assumed as the bathroom and a large closet across the bed. Naru, he whispered, thinking that the girl sitting on the bed with her arm around her brother was still awake. Receiving no reply, he stepped into the room quietly and reached his hand out to touch her shoulder when he noticed the slow, rhythmic breathing of the blonde. Smiling softly at the scene, he took Naru into his arms from what looked like an uncomfortable position. He pulled the door close behind him as he stepped out. He walked towards her bedroom and found that his cousin was in the same boat. Obito was also carrying a sleeping Rin in his arms. A silent message was conveyed as both men entered their designated rooms with their charges. Itachi laid the blonde girl, no woman, on her bed and sat silently on the pullout as he waited for his cousin. Mere minutes later, the brown-haired Uchiha entered the room and went straight for his best friend, disregarding his cousin. "What are you doing?" Itachi asked as he watched Obito walk around the room picking up things one might need for a sponge bath. "I'm gonna give her a sponge bath." "Why?" "She's forgotten to take a shower because she was worried about her younger brother." Obito. "This is perfectly normal for us." Short brown hair bounced atop his head as he emerged from the bathroom carrying a small bowl with a towel in it. He laid it on the bedside table and reached for his best friend's shirt. Itachi promptly turned around to give them privacy. "It's me, Naruto-chan," Obito whispered as the blonde woman grabbed his hand. "What do you mean perfectly normal?" Itachi asked as he tried to keep his focus on the wall across him. "I haven't told you how we met, have I?" "No." "Well, let me finish what I'm doing and then I'll tell you." Obito had already finished the sponge bath and was looking for clothes for her to wear. "After that you'll see why this isn't really new for us." He chose a large white shirt and put it on the half-naked body of Naru before reaching under it and unclipping her bra. The girl sighed gratefully as Obito took off the underwear from her. "Arigato Obito-kun," he placed a kiss on her forehead in response, and she sighed once more before falling deeper into sleep. "So how did you meet?" Itachi asked once his cousin sat beside him on the pull-out. "It's been almost 3 years since we first met. She'd been 15 and I was 16. We had been going to the same school and we knew each other by the face but not personally." "Why is that?" "I ran with a different crowd," Obito answered. "Or so I thought, but it turned out I was wrong. Anyway, I was invited to a party by Suigetsu and like all teenage parties, there was alcohol." "You were drunk?" "Just don't kill me after I tell you." She stared at her reflection, wondering slightly what had made her come. She'd never cared for parties and had never been invited to any, but this time she was. It was strange, to say the least. She'd always been good at holding her liquor, but she knew when she had to stop. She'd risen from the table feigning sickness when all she really wanted to do was to sober up. She was pulled from her thoughts when she heard commotion outside the bathroom she was currently in, and then she wasn't alone anymore. He didn't know what they wanted, but he was too drunk to protest, so he simply followed. The images were blurry and the voices, he couldn't recognize, and yet he let them lead him. It was some kind of room, he thought vaguely as he was pushed inside, and then the door was slammed shut behind him. He blinked, trying to clear his vision, when his gaze landed on the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. She stood in front of the full-body mirror attached to the wall, watching the boy they had shoved inside the bathroom with her. Obito, she thought as his gaze landed on her reflection. She was fully aware that she was naked, but she couldn't do anything about it anymore, so she simply smiled at him. Long blonde hair cascaded down her back like a golden waterfall, glimmering droplets of water sliding down the silky locks. It reached to her buttocks, and he continued his gaze down to tone-tanned legs. Onyx raised only to meet crystal blue, and she smiled through the mirror. His eyes strayed to the soft mounds tipped with rose buds, down to the flat stomach, and further south to the patch of blonde that covered her feminine core. His step was involuntary, even when his hand rose to caress that long neck. He didn't know what he was doing. He pulled her flush against him, one hand straying to reach for her perky breasts, the other wandering south to touch her most intimate place. She could only smile at his actions, knowing full well this wouldn't have happened in normal circumstances. She twisted in his hold and whispered, "It's not supposed to be this way." She could feel him react to her voice, and yet she ignored it as he pushed him into the shower and twisted the knob before pulling the curtain closed. "I said not to kill me when I told you." Obito screeched in protest as he tried to pry his cousin's hand from his neck. "No," Itachi said as he pulled back. "You said try not to, and I tried. I promise nothing happened." "Feeling better?" she asked the brown-haired guy as he stepped out of the show, shivering. Why yeah." His lips quivered as he spoke, and she threw him the towel she had already used on herself. She was already dressed in her bikini top and short shorts, and he was slightly disappointed by that. "You're Obito, right?" "That's me," he had gotten his body under control and answered. "You're friends with Suigetsu and Jugo?" "Yeah. They're still outside, you know." Only then did he notice the giggles and laughter that emanated from outside the door. "I don't know what they were planning." "It's one of the two," she said. "Either they want you to get laid or they're waiting for you to get your ass kicked by me." She grinned as he flinched away from her. "Don't worry, I won't do anything. Any ideas on how we can get out of here?" "I have one." She held her hand out to him and watched as he hesitated. She led him to the toilet and asked him to sit down on the closed cover. "I'm sure they're waiting for some action." She sat on his lap, careful to keep away from his man parts as she laid both hands on his shoulder. Slowly and gently she began to knead the tense muscles, earning her a loud moan from the guy underneath her. "Are you sure this is going to work?" he whispered as she continued her ministrations. He was an Uchiha, so of course, he'd gotten her plan almost immediately. "We may not look like it, but Suigetsu and I are friends," she told him as he laid both hands on her hips. "He is very protective of me, he and Jugo both are. Prank or not, they won't let this happen." "I don't think it's working," he said as another moan tore from his lips. He groaned out Naru's name as she unknotted the tight muscles in his shoulders and listened as the laughing abruptly stopped. "My turn," she whispered, cerulean, shining mischievously at him. "Obito," she moaned, and he could feel himself react to her voice. She had closed her eyes and thrown her head back as she spoke a broken version of his name. 3-2-1, she whispered as she stayed in that position, and suddenly the door burst open. She rose from his lap and laid a kiss on his forehead before skipping to the guys who had kicked the door down. Bewildered eyes stared into the scene. "Better luck next time, Sui-chan," she kissed the blue-haired man's cheek before bouncing out of the bathroom and into the house, ignoring the audience they had gathered. "What did you do?" Glaring purple eyes clashed with calm onyx as Obito rose from his position. "I didn't do anything." He followed the blonde's lead and went inside the house, leaving the others gaping at his retreating back. "That's all that happened?" "I promise." "Does Rin know?" "Nara made me tell her." "How did she react?" "She wasn't happy, but then I explained that there was nothing going on between me and Naru, so she let it be." Why are you so jealous?" "I'm not jealous." "So care to tell me why you were glaring at Gaara and then tried to choke me just now?" "I'm not jealous." Itachi repeated. "I don't get envious of anyone. There's no reason for me to be jealous. Naru is loved by so many people, especially guys like me and Gaara. But there's only one she loves, and we all understand that, so we settle for the next best thing. There will be a lot of people who will get angry if she gets hurt." "Why are you telling me this?" "I don't know if you've fallen in love with her after your first meeting, but I sincerely hope she isn't just rebound for Kasumi." "That's strange," Itachi commented. "I haven't thought of Kasumi in a while." "It's Naru," Obito told him. "She has that effect on people. I know I don't need to warn you, but don't hurt her, because I will be the least of your problems when something happens to her." His cousin didn't wait for his reply. Instead, he rose from the pull-out and patted his shoulder before leaving him to simmer in his thoughts. He lay down on the bed, his long dark hair splaying behind his head as he did. His thoughts were swarmed with images of the blonde woman, and he fell asleep dreaming of what was to come. He awoke to the sumptuous scent of pancakes wafting through his nose. Dark onyx eyes opened to an unfamiliar room, and it took him a moment to remember where he was, but when he did, he smiled wryly. He still didn't know how to feel about his cousin's unconventional meeting with the woman he now knows he adores, but he decided to leave that for another time. It took him 10 minutes to get ready for the day and another 5 to locate the kitchen. There he found the blonde dancing to a tune in her head as she cooked. He watched the way her hips swayed as she walked from the stove to the counter to put a pancake on the plate. His eyes followed the way her long hair swished behind her as she continued to dance. He'd been leaning on the doorframe to the kitchen, and without knowing it he'd been smiling at her. It almost felt like home. "Nei-chan!" The loud exclamation of the smaller blonde broke him out of his thoughts. He looked just in time to see the boy barrel into his older sister, who in turn had to hold on to the counter to keep them both upright. "You didn't wake me up." He smiled at the pout the blue-eyed boy sported. "You were tired," she patted his head as she smiled back at him. "But we were supposed to cook breakfast together," he protested. "I know, that's why I didn't start making the toast yet." "Really?" "Of course. Now why don't you go get the butter from fridge so we can start with them?" "Okay." Itachi could only smile at the way Naru handled Deidara, who would have no doubt started a tantrum. "You do realize it's not polite to stare." He ignored the knowing look Obito shot him as he and Rin walked past and into the kitchen. "Good morning, Naru-chan," Rin greeted the blonde woman as she stepped away from Obito. "Good morning, Rin-chan. What are we gonna do today?" "Well, Gaara's coming to pick us up and then I'll bring you to see my boys." Two dark-topped heads snapped in the direction of the girls. "Your boys?" Rin asked the question both Itachi and Obito wanted to ask. "Yep, but first we eat breakfast." She gestured towards the table where the pancakes already lay. "Ow!" Deidara's exclamation startled all of them. They turned to find him clutching his hand. "What happened?" Naru rushed over to the boy and cradled the injured hand gently. "I forgot to put the mitts on," Deidara pouted, obviously ignoring the pain in his index finger. "Well, now you'll have something to remind you that you have to put your mitts on every time you cook something in the oven or the toaster." "I know, Nei-chan," he pouted at her. Breakfast was a loud affair that had all of them laughing at Deidara's antics. At the end of it all, the small boy was left dripping with syrup with bits and pieces of pancake atop his head. "Why don't you go get Q-chan?" Naru's innocent suggestion had Obito looking at her. "Really?" Even Deidara was doubtful. "Why not?" Naru exclaimed encouragingly. "We have to leave anyway because Gaara will be here soon." "Okay." He dashed off after he stumbled off his high chair. "You do realize she will kill you afterwards, right?" The blonde shrugged. "Damn it, Deidara," the shrieking voice of the second Namake's child echoed through the house. "I'm going to kill you." Footsteps thundered through the second floor of the house, followed by Deidara's childish laughter and more curses coming from the redhead. "Won't they kill each other?" Rin's voice was worried, but both Obito and Naru merely laughed. "No, Q just says that, but she doesn't really mean it." "Are you sure?" Rin asked after they heard another scream from upstairs. "Well, sorta," the two said simultaneously. "Itachi, are you alright?" Naru turned her attention towards the dark-haired man who had kept silent the whole time. "Narune, you need to clean him up now." "Oh, alright, fine." Naru stood up from her position and took the sticky boy from her younger sister's arms. "Let's go, Chibi. You take care of the kitchen." Yeah, the redhead shooed them away as she stepped towards the fridge. "Just get him cleaned up before Garanai gets here." "Good morning, Q-chan." Obito greeted the girl who had taken out a bottle of water from the fridge. "Stop talking, you're so annoying in the mornings." "BB butt." Itachi almost laughed. The image of a grown-up being told off by a 10-year-old was so hilarious, not to mention the said adult was an Uchiha. "Again, stop talking, you're so annoying." "Why do you hate me?" "You know why I don't particularly like you, but I don't hate you," the redhead said as she sat down on the table and took a plate for herself. "It was an accident," Obito said, and yet he was smiling. "I know it was, but that doesn't make me any happier. The only man who should have seen my sister the way you did is the man she will marry," she said. "And unfortunately for you, that man is not you." "I know that already. And yet you're still around." "There's no way I will let her get away from me, you know?" "You talk as if she's yours," QB scoffed. "She's no one else's but one man. She's already chosen him." "She has?" "You're stupid if you don't know who I'm talking about." She effectively stopped the conversation by biting on a piece of pancake. She stared at Itachi as she chewed, eyebrows scrunching slightly as her eyes narrowed in thought. "You're in love with my sister." The truthful comment startled the adults. "What makes you think so?" It was Obito who asked. "It's the way you look at her," Kyubi answered without taking her eyes away from Itachi, still addressing the dark-haired man. No, it's not the same way Obito looks at her. She cut him off before he could start his protest. He looks at her protectively, you on the other hand look at her possessively. But you just said he spoke as if she was his, Itachi replied. It's just the way he talks about her, the redhead said. It doesn't matter because he actually knows where he stands with her. How can you say all these things? Rin asked in shock. It's just one of those things, Kyubi shrugged before returning to her meal. I do have to warn you, you're not the first. Baby girl, are you ready? Gaara, close the door. How do you know I didn't close it? You never do, the red-eyed girl rolled her eyes even though she knew he couldn't see her. Where's your sister? Bloody red hair peeked through the doorway as curious jade eyes looked around the room. She's upstairs taking care of Deidara. She stood from the table finally having finished eating. And she's probably getting ready herself. She began to fix the table as Gaara entered the kitchen. Can I go see if they're ready? No, stay here, the order was followed as the red-headed male pulled out a chair from the dinner table and made himself comfortable. Why do you never let me see her? Stop exaggerating, she continued with her task even as she spoke. I just don't let you go upstairs when she's changing. Why not? I can still kick your ass, Gaara. The sweet smile did nothing to veil the threat. Alright, fine, I get it. So when are you gonna make a move on Matsurine? What are you talking about? The attempt to change the subject failed as the 10-year-old continued her interrogation. Oh please, the whole gang knows that you like her, she sat in front of him after she finished her task. It's not like you're any different. Gaara commented. I am different because I acknowledge that I like Shukuen, I just don't do anything because I don't want anything to change between us. You don't even want to think that you like Matsuri-chan because you're in denial. I don't like her. Care to explain why you need her to babysit Sasori when you know full well that you only need to give him his puppets and he'll be occupied for the day? I need her help with both Sasori and Shikaku. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. Gaara-kun, are we going? Their attention was diverted towards the entrance where Naru stood carrying Deidara in her arms. What took you so long? Stop exaggerating, you haven't been here for long. Anyway, let's go. Can you drop me off at your house, Gaara? Sure, the redhead turned his attention towards the girl. What are you gonna do there? Isn't Shukuen sick? Yeah, he is. There's your answer. Ah, Gaara pretended to gush. Hyu-chan is going to spend time with Shukuen. He gushed. At least I'm not afraid to admit to myself that I like him, the retort was said loudly. Unlike some other people, isn't that right, Dae-chan? Yeah, it didn't matter if he didn't understand what they were talking about. Let's go, let's go, let's go, he chanted. I want to see Seiso-kun. Alright, fine, Naru intervened before the argument could last. We're going. She swung the boy up to her shoulders. Obito, just follow Gaara's car, I need to ride with Deidara. No problem, Naru-chan. The conversation was lost to Itachi as he stared at the blonde. She wore simple shorts and a checkered polo shirt over a tank top with plain black Converse shoes on her feet, and yet she looked exquisite in his eyes. Was he really in love with her? Was it possible after only one meeting? He didn't know. He would admit though that he was attracted to her in a way he had never been attracted to a girl, no woman before. Not even Kasumi. He only hoped she shared the same sentiments regarding him. Zok 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 x. Long dark hair was pulled up into a ponytail, the lazy slouch as he leant against the door frame hid the intelligence behind deep brown eyes. They followed the way she stepped out of the car, followed by a small boy, a younger version of her. He'd been in love with her but she had turned him down, insisting there would be another for him, and she'd been right. He met Temari through the same girl who had been his first love, and they had been happy ever since. He still loved her though. He had a thing for blondes, that he was sure of. He watched as she was greeted by Gaara, who had been in the same car as her, and noted the way the dark-haired man from the other car's reaction to their intimacy. Eyes narrowed at the unknown man's reaction, but he paid no heed to it at the moment, choosing to focus on her. Zock 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 x. Dae-chan, wait for me. She ran after the smaller blonde as he and a red-headed boy ran hand in hand toward the garage. The twinkling laugh of both boys reached her ears before she heard the screeching of tires on her right. Stopping abruptly, she narrowed her eyes at the driver of the dark blue Ferrari zooming her way and then jumped on the hood as soon as it came close enough. Naru, you got footprints on my car. The loud protest was shouted as she stomped atop the vehicle and then hopped off as he tried to shake her off by stopping abruptly. Trying to shake me off, Kiba? She asked the boy with the slitted eyes, shaggy brown hair and red triangles on his cheeks. Gah. They're so dirty. At least they're as expensive as your car, she snorted, flipping her hair as she did so. That's what you get for trying to run her over. She would recognize that voice anywhere. She turned to him, eyes lighting up with glee as she watched him walk with his lazy slouch and ever-bored eyes. Shikakuin, she raced over to him, launching herself at him as he came closer. It was effortless as he caught him and they twirled around, her voice still alight with happiness as she laughed. Zock 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 x. First it was Gara and then this Shika as she called him. How many other men will he have as rivals for his blonde's attention? He had to lay his claim on her before anybody else could. He had to make her his, and it had to happen soon. Zock 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 x. Obito didn't like the look on his cousin's face. He had his businessman look and he just knew Itachi was calculating something. One way or another he just knew it was about Naru. Should he warn her or just let things unfold by themselves? Maybe he'll leave it for later, after all Shika and the others were there anyway. Zock 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 x. Do you know where Naru-chan is? Cropped brown hair bobbed as she asked her boyfriend. She's probably in the dojo sparring with Kiba. Obito told Rin. There's a dojo here? Well, Shikamaru may look lazy but he actually does martial arts. He and Nara like to spar and being the only son of the Nara he gets everything he wants. He didn't look like he could be doing martial arts. I think he'd rather lay down somewhere and watch the clouds than start bumping fists with someone else. Rin commented. We could go see them if you want, he offered. Beside him on the couch sat his cousin, silent and formal as ever. Do you want to come, Itachi? The dark-haired man rose without a reply and simply nodded to Obito. He shook his head as he led the way, knowing Kiba, there would be something of a show. Zock 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 x. Shikamaru shook his head as he watched Kiba trap both of Naru's hands atop her head with one hand and pull her close with the other. He simply looked on as the brunette bobbed his eyebrows mockingly at her as if asking what she was going to do about it. He chuckled as she pulled on one of H's legs with hers and then laughed loudly as he listened to his pained groan as Kiba's back slammed hard on the wooden floor. Kiba, Naru said. You know I hate that position. She had one hand on his neck, the other fisted above his face and both legs on either side of him. I know, but then this is always the result and you know I love it when you're on top of me like this. He placed both hands on her hips as he leered playfully at her, smiling brightly as she shook her head and bonked him on the head. You're so lucky Hina-chan knows you love her. But I just can't decide who's better for me. Before she could retort she was pulled from her position and the breath rushed out of her chest as she slammed on something hard. Confused blue eyes met with smoldering black that seemed to shimmer red. Itachi his answering growl cut her off. Mine, he said before he captured her lips in a bruising kiss. Crystal blue widened before they fluttered close as she submitted to his dominance. Zock 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 x. He had been ready for some bruises, maybe a few marks and even some blood as he followed his cousin towards the back of the rather large garage. This was new information for him. Naru could fight and she loved to spar. He became even more intrigued with her at this news and he wanted to see how good she was. Whatever he had prepared himself for, it wasn't this. Onyx's eyes narrowed as he stared at the scene before him. His Naru, was straddling someone else, another man. And she only smiled when he put his filthy, grabby hands on her hips. He had watched her kiss someone else, kept silent when she held on to another as she laughed, but he couldn't let her continue with these, he couldn't even think straight anymore. Before he could think of his actions, he had already picked her up, rather grabbed her and then slammed her into the far wall. Seeing those confused eyes, the full pouty lips and then her breathless gasp, he couldn't control himself any longer. He covered her lips with his own, his lips moving in a brutal, punishing kiss. He relished in her sweet taste as he swiped his tongue across her lips, he almost grinned at her sigh as he massaged her sleek muscle with his own. He pulled away from her before plunging back onto her lips, his kisses trailing down her chin and then to her neck. He nipped and on her pulse point until it was an angry red and smiled at the soft moan she emitted, which she no doubt tried to muffle. Suddenly he was falling, and then his head hit the floor. Confusion clouded dark eyes as he stared in bewilderment at the furious blonde straddling him. His eyes glazed over at their position, not understanding her question even when they registered in his ears. Was that Itachi? Blazing cerulean pools captured his onyx ones and he was trapped. He couldn't hear what she was saying, although he did see the way she grasped at her neck, covering, although futilely so, the angry red mark that had already formed there. He was disappointed when she stood up and stomped angrily towards his cousin as he continued to lay there somewhere between dazed and confused at what had happened. Zox 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 zox. Control your cousin Obito, was all she said to him as she stomped her way out the dojo, ignoring the knowing look all the other occupants threw her way. She huffed as she ran from the scene, knowing if she had stayed any longer she couldn't have predicted what else happened. Who does he think he is, kissing me like that? Was Obito thinking bringing him to the dojo when he knew full well how playful Kiba is? Why did he even kiss me? Was he thinking? And he did it in front of Shika and the others too. Why would he do that? I can't think of anything unless he couldn't have been jealous, could he? No, why would he be jealous? I'm just deluding myself into thinking he actually has some feelings for me. It couldn't be, could it? We only met once. Could he really have fallen for me? She almost toppled over, the strength hidden underneath those muscles of hers helping her gain balance at the added weight on her back. What did I tell you about jumping on my back? She addressed the girl perched on her, her legs wrapped around the blonde's waist, with her arms around the neck. You're the only one who doesn't fall when I do, the bun-haired girl pouted at the admonishment. You're way too hyper, Naru commented as she resumed her walking, half relieved, half annoyed that her monologue was cut short. Could you please get off of me? No, Naru rolled her eyes but kept on walking anyway. So what happened? What do you mean what happened? You're too cheery for something to not have happened. There was a moment's silence before the brunette finally answered. Niji stayed over last night. What happened to him, Ten? He had another fight with his uncle. What did your dad say? He knows we won't do anything, so let him stay. Can I come visit him? Ten laid her chin on her shoulder as Naru asked. When you have time, she commented. I'm sure he'd like that. Ten, the blue-eyed girl called out after a few moments of silence. Ten, are you okay? Is that a hickey? What are you talking about, Panda? Naru retorted even when her hand rose to cover it up. It's a hickey. Ten announced as she jumped from her perch and ran ahead the blonde. Naru has a hickey, she blared as she ran into the living room. Naru flushed bright red as all stares turned towards her. This time, she knew, she couldn't escape. Zox 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 zox. Gara, she called out to the redhead sitting alone on the balcony. I know, she sighed. It had taken too long for her to get away from her nosy friends, she hadn't had time to look for him and tell him personally. I wanted to tell you myself. I already heard. You're not angry, are you? She asked as she walked up to him shyly. I'd known the moment I saw him last night. How could you have known? When it comes to you, I have this, he struggled with his words. It's complicated. I wonder if Shika knows. I saw the whole thing. The lazy man's gruff voice came from behind the pair just as Naru leant her head on Gaara's shoulder. Shika dash. We've known the moment you rejected us that you wouldn't be for us. Gaara said for the both of them. You introduced me to Temari and I've been happy ever since, but I've always told you the truth. I still and probably will always love you. Shikamaru replied. I never wanted to hurt either of you, she whispered, tears already forming at the corners of her eyes. I know that, Gaara knows that. Shikamaru wrapped an arm around her waist as all three of them stared out into the distance. What should I do? Do what your heart tells you. But dash. No, Gaara was stern as he said, stop using your brain for just one moment and follow your heart. Jade clashed with Cerulean and Naru could only sigh. Thank you guys so much. Go, he must be tearing his head off. No, Itachi's not like that, she was swift to come to his defense. How do you know? The question came simultaneously from both men. I dash. Go to him, baby girl, they nudged her off and watched as she walked away from them. Oh, and Naru? Shikamaru called her back. Yeah? She's ready for you, he smiled as her eyes once more lighted up with glee. She is? Yeah, she's in her room. I've finally nursed her back to health. Thank you, she squealed happily before peeling away in search of her. The pair watched as a shadow followed the golden girl. You're evil, you know? Gaara commented. He had to know everything. Well, not everything. Whatever you say, Gaara. Now tell me, when are you going to make a move on Matsuri? Zox 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 zox. I know you've been following me. Blonde hair swayed as she turned to face her stalker. Onyx clashed with Cerulean and they stood at a stalemate. Why did you kiss me? I dash. Are you sure you're Itachi Uchiha? She snorted. I'm pretty sure he doesn't stutter, neither does he struggle for words. A fire lighted in his eyes and he began to stalk towards her, each step full of purpose, each stride graceful. He reached in a few strides and loomed over her. How do you know so much about me? His stance was supposed to be menacing, something any normal person would flinch away from, but Naru was no ordinary person. I have my sources, she shrugged nonchalantly. Would that source be Obito? Why do you care? I don't, I just want to know. Are you sure? Naru stared into his eyes. I for one care about why you kissed me right after telling me I'm yours. Why did you claim me? Claim you? Confusion once again riddled his eyes as he stared back at her. You marked me, that means you claimed, she explained. This time, it was her turn to stalk him. He didn't realize what she was doing until his back hit the wall. What are you talking about? You see, there's this long-standing tradition in the Uzumaki family. We have a sort of a bond with the foxes, and one thing you should know, foxes mate for life. Realization dawned on him as soon as she finished her sentence. You mean dash. You Itachi Uchiha are mine for the rest of our lives. She stood on her tiptoes just to level their lips. She kissed him, just as hard as he did that afternoon, and wasn't surprised when he responded eagerly. He grabbed her hips and pulled her closer, wanting so much more of her as he tasted and scent overwhelmed his senses. He groaned in disappointment when she pulled away. What are you dash? He tried to ask as she kissed his neck. You're mine Uchiha, she growled into his shoulder. Sharp canines bit down on the junction between his neck and shoulder and he moaned in both pain and pleasure. She lapped at the droplets of blood on his skin before pulling back and kissing him once more. You're mine. She snuggled closer to him, although with some difficulty due to the small blonde boy also sitting on her lap. It had been 3 days since they marked each other, and throughout that time she and Itachi had been spending more time together. They were on the couch watching a movie with Deidara when the phone suddenly rang. Itachi took the phone and then handed it over to Naru. Hello? Naru, the voice was wheezing but feminine. Mari, Naru sat up straight at the sound of her best girlfriend's voice. Hi, she could hear her fellow blonde struggle. Where are you? I'm at Shika's. How come I haven't seen you? I asked him to hide me from you. What's wrong, Mari? Why don't you want me to see you? We were careless, Naru, Temari said. It was an accident, but we never regretted it. Although, maybe Shika doesn't really want me to go through with this. No, Naru gasped as understanding washed over her. Her hold tightened on the phone until her knuckles turned white, catching the attention of both Itachi and Deidara. Temari, you can't do this. Desperation and fear could be heard clearly in her voice. It's too late now. The other was oddly calm even though she was in pain. But I want you to be here. Okay, where are you? I'm in the medical room. I'll be there, and I have someone I'd like you to meet with me, alright? See you soon, Naru. Just hang on, Mari, I'll be there soon. The pretend cheery voice was gone as soon as the call ended. Naru stared into space, unable to comprehend the whys and the hows. Naru, she could hear Itachi's voice, but the words wouldn't register in her mind. Naru, he finally captured her chin to make her look at him. He watched as her eyes refocused on his visage before speaking. What's going on? Where's Daichan? I sent him up to Q. Now tell me what's going on. He was calm and gentle, yet he was stern. Who was that on the phone? Temari. Gaara's sister? How do you know that? I heard him talking about her. What happened? There's this strange disease, illness, or whatever, I don't even understand what it is. But there's something in their genetic code that makes their bodies very weak. Gaara doesn't look weak. That's because he doesn't have it. Only the females have it, although the males are carriers of the defective DNA. So what's going on? Temari's pregnant. Naru breathed deeply before continuing. She's going to have her baby soon. How do you know that? The whole time I was here they wouldn't tell me where she was. They hid her from me because they knew that I... Naru, you have to calm down. We won't be able to help her if you're panicking. He looked her straight in the eyes and then kissed her forehead. Tell me what's going to happen. I can't. Yes, you can. He embraced her, let her head settle on his shoulder. I can't. Naru. She's not going to survive the delivery. You don't know that for sure. Yes, I do. There was conviction in her voice, though hidden by the grief. She's only 21, she's not strong enough to have this baby and survive. Her mother died during childbirth. There's 3 of them, Kankuros the eldest, followed by Temari and then Gaara. Their mother had all 3 of them before she died. How can you be sure that Temari won't survive? Mari has always been in and out of the hospital. It started when she turned 13 and had her first cycle. That's how the doctors knew she had the same disease as their mother. How do you know that she won't survive? He insisted. Every time her mother gave birth, their father brought her out of the country. Japan may be advanced when it comes to technology, but it doesn't cover the medical side of the things. Their mother always had a doctor specialized in the field. She's not going to survive this, I know because Temari told me. Then the best we can do is be there for her. I can't. Shinichi Naru. She needs her family there. I don't want to see her die. I'm calling Obito and the rest. We're all going to be there for you. He started to break away from her but was cut off when he heard his cousin's voice. There's no need for that, Itachi. Obito said as he marched down the stairs with Rin, Q, and Deidara behind him. Gaara called, Temari's been in labor for 4 hours, the nurse believes the baby will come anytime soon. Let's go. Gone was the grieving girl, the sobbing blonde was nowhere in sight. The cerulean-eyed woman who stood before them only held strength and determination in those crystal blue pools. I'm driving. Zock 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 zock. He felt so helpless as he paced back and forth in front of the room in which his sister was currently trying to deliver a baby. Bloody red hair was even more mussed than usual, bright teal eyes surveying the hallway and then focusing on the door with worry. He looked towards one side where a brown-haired man sat. The usual ponytail was messy, dark brown eyes hidden from view by the man's hands. Another pained scream had him returning back to his pacing just as he heard the screeching of tires, the slamming of doors and then the hurried footsteps. Naru's here, he didn't need to announce it to his audience, they wouldn't mistake the loud stomping for anyone else. Where is she? She wasn't even out of breath as she ran towards him with her entourage following closely behind. Where is she, Gaara? She's inside. He stopped pacing and blocked her way. We're not supposed to go in there, the loud slap echoed across the quiet halls. And you were supposed to protect her, she retorted, her voice venomous as she effortlessly shoved him out of her way. Isn't that right, Shika? She turned her attention to the man slumped on the floor. But then again, promises are meant to be broken. She turned and marched into the room, the following shout of pain bouncing off the walls before the door was closed to slightly muffle it. Mari-chan, she called out to her fellow blonde. The 21-year-old woman was gripping the side rails as the contractions continually hit her. Her forehead was creased in concentration, sweat beading the skin as she fought the screams that bubbled up her chest to her throat. Naru-chan, she smiled wearily at her guest, barely glancing at the dark-haired man hovering closely behind her sister. How could you let this happen to yourself? It was an accident, Temari said as the couple walked closer to the bed. Don't blame Shika or Gaara. It wasn't their fault. Gaara? Naru stopped in her tracks. Why would I blame Gaara? Unless. Naru, please don't dash. Whose child is it? Sigh, she finally said after a long pause. Mari-chan, how did he get to you? She swept sweaty blonde locks from the forehead. It doesn't matter, dark blue eyes closed as Temari spoke. You'll regret it. I already regret leaving you in their hands, Naru said. I just want to know what's going on. How did it happen? I couldn't punish my baby for what his father had done, she ignored her friend's questions. It wasn't his fault. It's a boy? I don't know, I think so. You knew it would be dangerous, why did you go through with it? Because of my disease, an abortion was out of the question anyway. Besides, how could I hurt my own child? Mari-chan. Naru, you know it's too late. I won't survive this. What about your father? We can ask for his help. Dad's been gone since Mom died. He just hasn't been the same. Why didn't Kankuro do anything to help? Does he even know? He has enough troubles trying to keep the company running, I didn't want to add to his problems. Mari-chan, Naru grabbed her hand. You know you're more important to him than the company itself. But what about our children? So, he doesn't know? Naru gave up. There was no changing Temari's mind. No, she nodded. I'm just happy I'm leaving someone behind so I won't be forgotten. Mari-chan, you know I won't forget you. Temari nodded just as another contraction hit her. As they spoke, they had almost forgotten what was happening. We're ready, Temari, the nurse said from between her legs. She nodded as she began to push. What are you going to name him? Temari wheezed after another half an hour. They stared at the blonde baby in her arms in wonder. Me? I want you to be his mother, Temari told her. I know you'll love him just as you would your own children. Mari-chan. I know both you and his soon-to-be father will love him, she insisted. Throughout the time, Itachi hadn't spoken. He'd silently watched the exchange and listened to them talk even when something caught his attention. He just knew that what Temari was asking for was something neither he nor Naru would refuse. Akira, Naru finally said as she looked at the sleeping boy in Temari's arms. Akira Kaze. Come get him, Naru-chan, Temari said. Come get our Kaze-chan. She was in a daze as she took the baby from her sister's arms, not really knowing what she was doing as she stared at the peacefully sleeping child. He's beautiful, Mari-chan, she breathed as she finally tore her eyes away from the child to look back at her friend only to see that her eyes were closed, a gentle smile playing upon her lips. Mari-chan, she was grateful to Itachi who had been there to support her, standing tall to be her tower of strength. She couldn't stop the tears that raced one by one as he led her to sit down, away from the body of her closest friend but still within the room. What name shall I put for the parents of the child? The nurse's voice broke her from her reverie and she looked down only to find that the child had been taken from her. Frantic blue eyes searched the room to find the baby was being cleaned by another nurse. Narumi Suki Uzumaki Namikaze for the mother. She was surprised when her voice didn't shake, but she didn't take her eyes away from the child even when she was asked another question. What about the father? Itachi Uchiha. It was him who answered, her partner, her boyfriend, her mate. Questioning cerulean pools met with unwavering onyx. His surname would be Namikaze Uchiha. She wanted to question him, to ask why he was doing this. They'd only known each other for a few days, and yet he had volunteered to be the father of a child she had only just acquired herself. She didn't have more time to ponder on her thoughts as the child was being brought back to her. He's healthy, so you can take him home now. She finally recognized the assistant nurse. Kashikuan, the silver-haired man, stood holding out her baby. Naru-chan, he greeted her. I know you know what to do, so I'm letting you go home. You have everything you need in your dad's office. Who are you with? Nai-chan. How could she not have recognized her father's former student and his girlfriend? I'm sure you want to check on her, but I recommend going home to rest. It's been a long day and you do have someone else to take care of. He indicated the sleeping baby still in his arms. We'll check on you tomorrow afternoon, he promised as she finally took her baby from him. Take her home, Itachi. She didn't miss the familiarity between the two but let it go. She had more pressing matters to attend to. Let's go home, he assisted her from the chair and led her out of the room. How's Temari? Matsuri was the first to ask. She's resting, Itachi answered. They could hear the double meaning in his words, but they hid behind denial. No, Matsuri could only shake her head as she sobbed. It can't be true. Gaara was there behind her to support her. She's gone. Nara began to sob, though she tried hard to control it. I couldn't do anything. Let's go home, Itachi. Hugh's voice broke through amidst the sobs and the cries of disbelief. She had been sitting on the floor next to Shikamaru with Deidara sleeping on her shoulder. Narune needs to get some rest and we have to set up a place for the baby to sleep in. She was oddly rational and relaxed, and Itachi was once again impressed by the maturity the 10-year-old held. Abito, the dark-haired man, stared at his cousin. Can you stay and help? Of course, we'll stay here to get everything in order. Take Nara home so she and the baby can rest. Can you carry Deidara? Itachi asked, but the boy was already perched on the redhead's back. Zock 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 zock. She stared at her reflection in the full-length mirror in her bathroom and realized she didn't recognize the young woman staring back at her. The long blonde hair had seemed to have lost its luster since that morning, crystal blue eyes ringed red from crying and the obvious sag to her usually cheerful gait. So many things had happened in a span of 3 days, some happy and some. She stared right back at his smoky orbs through their reflection and she knew he'd been watching her. She paid no heed to her bareness, instead she lowered her gaze as her shoulders began to shake once more. Naru, his silken voice reflected the pain he felt because she was in pain. He embraced her from behind before turning her so she faced his chest. He towered over her, a good 6 inches taller, but at the moment, he didn't care about the height difference. She's gone, Tachi, she sobbed onto his bare chest. She only just realized that he too had nothing on. She was led into the shower and then put under the warm spray without breaking their embrace. She's not gone, Naru, he told her. She won't be gone as long as you remember her. I didn't even say goodbye to her. She didn't want you to say goodbye, she wanted you to promise her that you'd take care of her baby. Why did you do it? You marked me, didn't you? He raised her chin so he could look into her eyes. I marked you as well. Technically we're already married. Why did you do it? I love you, Naru. Wide blue eyes stared in shock at the man standing so close to her. She suddenly realized their close proximity and didn't know how to react. What? I only met you last month, officially that is, he began. What are you saying? You're not the only one who fell in love with a picture and the stories that go along with it. He smiled knowingly at her and she blushed beautifully under his gaze. Abito told me stories about his best friend, the one that helped him get closer to Rin, the one who stood by him whenever he needed someone to talk to, the girl, the first one he ever saw naked, Only at the time it didn't occur to me that it was you with him in that bathroom. He told you how we met. A few years ago, he told me about this beautiful blonde girl he saw naked because of a prank and said he might have fallen in love with her. She didn't even realize that the water had been turned off and he was already toweling her dry. When he told me how you two met that night we arrived at your house, I finally put the pieces together and I was so jealous I almost choked him. You tried to strangle him? What else could I do? He asked as he wrapped the towel around her. He saw you and then he touched you. He never touched me, she was defensive even as her eyes surveyed his body. He gave you a sponge bath while I was inside the room. She couldn't tear her eyes away from the toned abs, the slightly muscled chest and then further south. Like what you see, suddenly he was there and she could smell his masculine scent. She watched his chest heave with each breath, one after the other as he fought to gain some control over his body. Itachi I know, he kissed golden locks in response and then embraced her once more. I'm sorry, I can't help it. It's just that dash. It's alright, I understand, he said. You don't need to worry about me, you have Akira to think about. At the sound of his name, fresh tears came anew and he let her cry until exhaustion finally overtook her and she fell into a fitful sleep. Zock 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 zock. Red hair fell in messy waves behind her as she stared at the baby lying on the makeshift cot on the floor. Slitted red eyes, her mother said she inherited from her grandmother, narrowed at the boy who was her nephew. Temari had been as much a part of their family as Gaara was and she was hurt by her death but she needed to be strong when her sister was falling apart. Naru had always taken care of her and Deidara and she felt as if it was time that she took care of her now. Thank you for watching him Q. Her new brother's voice broke her from her thoughts and she rose from her kneeling position beside the baby. He had been laid on the pull-out bed where Itachi had slept previously. Q just knew that he would be sleeping with her sister from now on. It was no problem Aniki, it came naturally to her, the need to give respect to her sister's mate. She watched as he laid her sister on the bed before going to the closet to find some clothes for her. Just take care of them, alright, were her parting words before she closed the door quietly to the new family's bedroom. Itachi had just gotten some clothes on himself and was about to get into bed with Naru when the quiet knocks interrupted him. He opened the door to find Obito holding a bag that no doubt held things for the baby. You forgot to take this, Obito said. Thank you, Itachi took the bag and set it at the foot of the bed. How is everything at the Naras? Shikamaru has broken down, he just shut down. We couldn't get him to talk to any of us and we think Naru is the only one who would be able to. What about Temari? She'll be buried in 2 days. They don't want a long funeral. Who's making the preparations? Gaara, Obito reported. No one else can because he's the only one who still has the right mind for it. Temari told Naru that their oldest brother Kankuro didn't know her condition. Could you tell Gaara that? No problem, Obito turned to leave but before he did he said, oh and Itachi, take care of them will you? He didn't answer his cousin, simply closed the door after a single nod. Sighing deeply, he turned back to the room to see his new family. There's no going back now, he said to himself as he slipped under the covers and pulled Naru close to him. He breathed in her scent as she snuggled closer to his chest. Dropping a kiss on top of golden locks he thought, I don't ever want to go back. He tiptoed into the bedroom, unwilling to wake up the sleeping occupants. Quietly closing the door, he sighed in relief after realizing that no one had awakened at his entrance. He stared at the sleeping couple on the bed, the blonde woman wrapped in a protective embrace by the dark-haired man. On the left side of the bed he looked at the new baby he had learned was his nephew. He walked quietly to the sleeping child noting the tuft of blonde hair and the chubby little fingers on his small hands and feet. He reached out to touch his face startling them both when the baby opened its sky-blue eyes in response. Tears welled up in the boy's eyes and he panicked. Rising quickly he went to the other side of the bed and urgently shook the man's foot. What is it Daichan? The voice was still sleepy and yet Onyx eyes stared into blue ones. The baby's awake, Deidara said, sniffling lightly. I think he's going to cry. Alright, Itachi carefully slipped out of the bed, making sure he didn't wake up his partner. Will you stay with your sister? He asked gently as he grabbed the baby bag from the floor and went over to the child who was getting ready to wail. Okay, Deidara chirped, climbing into bed with his older sister as his brother exited the room with the sniffling baby cradled gently in his arms. Zock 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 zock. She felt exhausted even when she was just waking up. Cerulean pools opened to a slightly darkened room and was surprised to see that her bedmate had become smaller and blonde. She embraced her younger brother's small frame, unwilling to get out of the bed, smiling when he snuggled closer to her warmth. She stayed that way for a few moments until she realized that Deidara was sniffling softly. Daichan, what's wrong? You have a baby now, he said, keeping his head on her chest so she couldn't see his face. You won't love me anymore. What makes you say that? He's so small and you have to protect him and you have to be there for him and he has to be more important to you and. Chibi, look at me. Her voice was gentle and slightly scolding, but he looked up nonetheless. Two pairs of blue clashed and Nara smiled softly at her brother. You can't think that I won't love you anymore just because I have a baby now. But he needs you more than I do, he protested weakly. That doesn't mean you don't need me as well. Whatever happens, no matter how many children I have, you will always be my chibi. Remember that, okay? Okay, he beamed at her, then kissed her cheek. Do you want me to call Itachi-san now? You can call him Aniki, you know. But I don't know if he'd like that. He does, Hyu-chan calls him that already. So, do you want me to call him now? Where did he go anyway? He went to take the baby out of the room because he was going to cry and I didn't want to wake you up because you looked so tired and you were still sleeping, so I woke him up and he took the baby out of the room and he told me to stay with you here, but I fell asleep and now we're awake. Alright Chibi, she could only smile at his response and the way he gasped after saying something so long without so much as a breath. Will you tell him to come? Okay, she smiled as Deidara jumped off the bed and zipped out of the room. Sighing deeply, she decided to take a shower while waiting for Itachi to come. She got out of the bed slowly and walked to the bathroom, her steps heavy. She found herself staring at her reflection just as she did the night before. There she was, the girl she had known to be herself was starting to return to the surface. She had a light pink dusting her cheeks, her eyes seemed to have regained some of its twinkle and her posture looked to be returning to her normal happy gait. Her inner thoughts ran into a wall when she caught his smoky onyx orbs within her crystal blue depths. She realized she had been caught in a similar position once more and blushed a little brighter when she remembered what he had done the night before. Are you doing this on purpose or is my timing really off? His voice had a slight purr in it as he stepped behind her and put his hands on her bare hips. I don't know, she had a teasing smile on. I really don't understand why you always crash in on me when I'm thinking. Do you usually think bare naked? He asked as he laid his chin on her shoulder, their gazes still locked through the mirror. I find it rather relaxing these days. She seemed to have forgotten the past day's event, or maybe she was simply trying to forget. I, on the other hand, find this so much more exciting. The low growl in his tone sent shivers up her spine as he pressed a kiss onto her neck. But I'd rather not. He pulled away from her, looking back into those captivating blue eyes. At least, not right now, she smiled gratefully at him. Where's Kaze-chan? I left him with Obito. It's interesting how good he is with children. I think he's had some practice with his younger brother. I'll wait for you inside the room. Thank you. He kissed her cheek once more and then stepped out to give her some privacy. She showered quickly and then realized she hadn't taken a change of clothes. She wrapped herself in a large towel and hoped that somehow Itachi was out of the room. Peeking into the bedroom, she was relieved to find that he had apparently dozed off. She stepped quietly into her own bedroom, careful in her movements so as not to wake him up. She was looking for a change of clothes when the towel slipped off of her. Remembering that her partner was asleep, she shrugged it off and proceeded to put some lotion on. You have to stop doing that, the masculine voice stopped her in her tracks. Turning slowly, she shivered at the lust reflected in those dark eyes of his, and she had to fight the urge to lick her suddenly dry lips. Sorry, she scrambled to find her clothes. Itachi dash. Kami, Naru, I can't. His chest heaved as he stared down at her. She looked so tempting with her hair still wet from her shower, her face flushed with arousal, not to mention her legs still around him keeping him in place. You don't have to stop yourself, she told him, onyx eyes widening in shock at her bold statement. But Udash's protest turned into a groan when she raised her hips to meet his. Stop it, Naru. He held her down to freeze her movements. How long has it been, Itachi? I'm not going to use you like that, he said through gritted teeth. Technically, we're husband and wife already. She rose on her elbows, her face closer to his. Do you remember what I told you that day, when we first met? Confusion clouded his eyes for a moment before he nodded. You promised you'd take care of me. And that's what I plan to do. His resolve crumbled under her gentle touch and he found himself unable to protest. Blinking rapidly, he stared at her, wondering just how she had gotten on top without him knowing, but all thought process stopped once she began her ministrations. Before he fully succumbed to the pleasure, he said, Take care of me, Naru. Zox 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 zox. She stepped out of the room with a bright smile adorning her face. She went in search of her baby and found him in the living room along with a few unexpected guests. She hadn't realized it was already past noon. Kashi-kun, she smiled at the silver-haired man. Naru-chan, how are you feeling? Much better. She reached for her child who was being held by Obito. Thank you for asking. Have you checked him yet? He sat down beside her best friend as he looked at the couple sitting across from them. He's healthy and he doesn't seem to have the same DNA Temari had. It was Kurenai who answered. But we'll know more about it in a few years. Was there anything else you needed? I just want to ask, are you sure? What do you mean? You're only 18, Naru, Kakashi said. Are you sure you can do this on your own? I won't be alone, she said. Do you really want to do this? I can't leave him, Kakashi. She looked at the child sleeping peacefully in her arms. Is it because he's Temari's child? Not just that, she told him. Before we left for Odo, Temari and I had plans. None of them included her getting pregnant, but we did talk about it. We both knew if she ever got pregnant she would never get past having her first child, so she made me promise that I'd take care of her baby. It slipped my mind simple because I never thought it would happen, but when I saw him for the first time, I knew I'd take him in and love him as my own. What about Minato-sensei and Kushina-chan, would they allow this? I don't know, Kashi-kun. I hope they do. Anyway, we came by to check up on you and to ask you to sign the papers. Kurenai said as she produced the documents that would make everything official. Is Itachi around? He's sleeping. The light blush that rose on her cheeks did not go unnoticed by her elder brother. He's sleeping, he said, giving her a pointed look. Naru dash. Stop talking, Kashi and I. It doesn't matter, Obito finally spoke, having kept silent during the rest of the conversation. It's not like we don't know what you two did. Obito. Naru-chan, care to share? It's none of your business, Hataki. The amusement in his voice couldn't be hidden by his glare. Itachi stepped into the room, his presence imposing as he walked towards Naru. You said you needed me to sign the papers? Ah yes. Kurenai rose from her seat with a slap on the back of her boyfriend's head. We haven't encoded his name yet, we thought we'd give you more time to think about it. Thank you, Nai-chan. Naru smiled at the red-eyed woman. You're welcome, Naru-chan, but I'm afraid we must go. What about the documents? We can pick it up sometime later, Kurenai said. We just have an appointment today and we really cannot miss it. Naru didn't miss the subtle look Kakashi gave his woman, nor the small smile and the light blush the dark-haired nurse sported. Tell me if it's good news, okay, she told them as they hugged her awkwardly due to the baby in her arms. Kakashi's lone visible eye widened, but she simply smiled in response. You're so much like your father, he commented. You're too similar to your sensei, she shot back. You have the same one. Kurenai said impatiently. Namake's Minato, they said simultaneously before laughing. Alright, stop. Obito intervened. You guys have to go, he gestured towards Kakashi. And you have to take care of Kaze-chan. It's interesting how he thinks he's in his own house, Kakashi said as Obito herded him and Kurenai out the door with Naru and Itachi following closely behind. Naru, you know breastfeeding is still the best way of getting nourishment for Kaze-chan, Kakashi said as he stood outside the door with an arm around his girlfriend. I'm sure your father has some of the medications in his office that would allow you to do that. Is it safe? Of course it is. I'll call you later once we get the news. Okay, take care Aniki. You too, the couple stepped into their car and drove off. Now, I'm going to sleep. Obito said as he walked past his cousin, dropped a kiss on top of Kaze's head and pecked Naru's cheek, then headed up the stairs towards his bedroom. What's gotten into him? Naru asked Itachi. He stayed late last night at the Nara's to keep an eye on the situation there after we left. Oh, she froze, trying hard to not let the tears fall at the reminder of her dead sister. When is the funeral? Tomorrow, he replied as he led her towards the now empty living room. Gaara's been making the arrangements. I need to talk to him and Shikakuin too. Maybe I was too hard on them, I don't want them to hate me. They don't hate you Naru, they might have been hurt by what you said but they're not going to hate you because of it. How do you know? I hurt them when they were already hurting, her voice raised and she forgot that she had a baby in her arms. You were also hurting, Itachi laid a hand on her arm, directing her attention back to the child she was holding. He looks so much like Mari-chan. He's an Uchiha, Itachi said. Of course he is, you're his father now. I didn't mean me. What are you talking about? Sai, I heard Temari mention his name. Sai? He's an Uchiha. He's a cousin of ours. We haven't been able to talk to him for a long time because he's been kicked out of the clan. Now I know what he's been doing all this time. What does that mean? Nothing, it means nothing, he said. I just wanted you to know. Do I need to worry about our custody of Kaze-chan? No, everything is legal Naru. There's nothing that can take him away from us. Are you sure? You don't have anything to worry about. I've called Sasuke, he and his fiancée are on their way here with a lawyer to make sure everything is in order. I promise there's nothing to worry about. I don't want to lose him, Tachi. You won't, he embraced her. They stayed in silence as both tried to regain their composure. Kurenai-san said they hadn't encoded his name in the documents because they wanted to give us more time to talk about it. Kashikuin must have remembered that Temari and I had already listed some names for her would-be child. I thought you said you weren't planning on getting her pregnant. We weren't really, but it was just a part of our talks. And then there was also Sai to think about. He used to be after me even when I had shot him down way too many times. I don't know what Mari-chan did to get his attention away from me and to her. What were the names? Akira was one, it reminded me of Obito's younger brother. Then she wanted to use the name my parents would have given me had I been a boy. And what is that? Naruto. Maelstrom, he said. Most people would say fish cake, but I think that's what my parents were aiming for. When I turned out to be a girl they simply named me Naru. Why Kaze? It's our element, Temari and I, she said. It's one of the many things that kept us together all these years. Uchiha Namake's Naruto Kaze. It's a mouthful but I think it would suit his personality. You don't mind? He already has my surname, he said. And besides, he won't be the last of our children. His smile was genuine but there was something teasing in his voice that didn't go unnoticed by Naru. Itachi, what are we now? She asked. I know you're my mate because we already marked each other. I'm a mother to Kaze-chan and you volunteered to be his father, but what are we? What am I to you? You're the woman I love, he captured her lips in a chaste kiss. You're the woman I plan to marry, to be the one who will bear my future children. You're my wife. The intensity in those dark eyes was something she couldn't avoid. In the midst of the grief and pain, she knew she had found something to hold on to. I love you too, Tachi-kun. The doorbell rang throughout the house, the occupants stopping what they were doing to look at the front door. Is anyone expecting someone? Hugh asked her older sister who had been cuddling her baby. That's not Gaara, he never rings the doorbell. Naru replied, looking straight at the redhead. Then who is it? I don't know, Shika just walks right in and Kiba usually just shouts until someone opens the door for him. Lazy asses, the two sisters said simultaneously before laughing. Another doorbell had them stopping. I'll get it, Itachi said as he walked down the stairs and straight to the door. It took you long enough, they heard him say. Guess he was waiting for someone. Hugh said. Anyway, I'm off to Shukuen's. Be careful on your way there. I'm taking Day with me, she said, then shouted. Day-chan, let's go. Okay, cheerful as ever, the smaller blonde ran down the stairs, his backpack slung over his shoulders bouncing. By Nei-chan, he kissed Naru's cheek, grabbed Kyu's hand, then pulled her to the door. By Idanai, he shouted as the two went out of the house, bypassing the adults in their way. Be careful, Itachi reminded them. Hugh waved a hand in response as they continued to walk away. Well, aren't you father material now? His guest commented as he was led inside. I am a father now, he informed them. Naru sat on the couch waiting for them to appear in her line of vision. She could hear them talking, but she didn't stand up to greet them. My wife's in the living room with our son. I thought I heard you say something about that. It was another man's voice, she noted idly as Kaze opened his eyes. Can I meet her now? It was a woman's voice. Of course, he led them to the living room where Naru was currently nursing their blonde-haired baby, a towel slung over his head to hide him. Naru-chan, this is Kisame, he gestured towards a large man with blue hair, skin that was slightly blue and shark-like teeth. Sasuke, my brother, he was a dark-haired man, his hair short and spiky at the back. His eyes were similar to Itachi's though slightly lighter. And Ino, his fiancé. Ino, she called out to the woman who was busy looking around the house. She hadn't changed much in the years they haven't seen each other. The same platinum blonde hair was pulled into a high ponytail, her bangs clipped to the side to reveal baby blue eyes. Naru, she recognized the voice now, she knew the woman sitting on the large sofa with a baby in her arms. Is it really you? She dropped her fiancé's hand and walked hesitantly towards her fellow blonde. How have you been? Naru ignored the question and asked one of her own. I've been busy, she eyed the child in her friend's arms as she sat down beside her. Though not as busy as you seem to have been, she gave him a pointed look. You know each other? Sasuke asked, confusion evident in his onyx orbs. We're friends, Ino answered him. We went to drama school together when we were younger. I guess that makes things easier. Itachi said. We'll let you two catch up, he said. Call me if you need anything, he smiled softly at Naru, who had then relaxed into her seat. She nodded in reply and the men left the room. So how did you land Itachi? Ino asked as soon as she thought they were out of earshot. I want to ask you the same question about his brother. What is it with Uchihas and blondes? Ino said. No idea. Alright, fine, I'll stop with the small talk and ask you what happened. Ino stayed quiet as Naru began her tale, knowing it wouldn't be all good. Zox. So tell me again why you needed me here, Kisame said as he, Itachi and Sasuke sat on the porch overlooking the backyard. I know you already know about Naru and Kaze. What I haven't told you is who his parents are. So tell us, Sasuke intoned. His mother is someone you know, Sasuke, Itachi began. You've been making deals with her brother ever since. Sabaku Temari. Temari-san? Then that means she's Dash. We held the funeral 3 days ago. Who's his father then? Sai. As in Sai, our cousin who was banished, Sai? Yes. Bastard. Sasuke said in frustration. You know? Of course, Sasuke said. Kankuro had often told me of Temari and Gaara. He mentioned it once or twice. Why do you need me here? Kisame asked again. We have the documents to prove that Temari has officially asked us to be Kaze-chan's parents, but Naru and I want to know if Sai can dispute it. Do you have witnesses besides legal proof? The nurses who delivered Kaze-chan. Then he has no claim over him. Kisame assured the worried father. Does he even know? I don't think he does. It's better to keep it that way, but if you and Naru ever encounter him again, just call me and I'll be there. Thank you, Kisame. Alright, no need to get sappy. Kisame replied. Now, is there anything else you needed of me? No, I just needed to confirm that. Then I'm afraid I must go, Kisame said. You're so lucky. I was on my way to meet Nagato when Sasuke called. You're on your way to AIM? No, he's in Oto right now. He's on a case and he needs my help. Then I won't keep you here. Itachi rose as his blue-skinned friend also got up from his seat. Thank you so much for coming over to help. It was no problem at all, he assured his dark-haired friend. Call me if you need me and please don't go falling into a depression again. I won't, Kisame. He led his friend out of the door before coming back inside to the living room to find Ino cradling Kaze while Nara laid her head on her fellow blonde as she sobbed quietly in her sleep. Itachi-san, Ino called out to him as soon as she noticed the man staring silently at the scene. There's no need to be formal, Ino-chan, Itachi replied as he walked towards them. Well then, Itachi-kun, I hope you take care of them. She turned her gaze on the sleeping baby in her arms. They've both been through a lot. Ino-chan, Sasuke's voice interrupted them. Kisame already left, but it's a little too late for us to. Do you know any place where we can stay? He entered the living room to find his brother picking up the woman he supposed was Naru, Itachi's wife. There's a hotel a couple of blocks from here. Ino said. Let me just take Naru to our bedroom, then I'll send you two on your way so you could get some rest. The pair nodded and it took him only a few minutes to come back. Will you be staying in Konoha? He asked as Ino gave him his son. We asked for a week's leave so we could get to know your new family, Sasuke said as Itachi led them to the door. Although in this case, it seems I'm the only one who needs to get to know them, he smiled softly at his fiancée. Naru's parents will be home in a few days, so I guess you'll get the chance to meet them then. We'll see you later, Itachi-kun, Ino said while Sasuke merely nodded at his brother. He closed the door quietly as soon as the couple had left his sights. Itachi sighed as he took his son upstairs to the bedroom he shared with his wife. Wife, it sounded so homely. He stared at the sleeping form of his blonde woman and could only smile. He knew they had a lot to talk about, though. There were still some aspects of the other's life that they didn't know yet. Sox. Tachi-kun, what time is it? A little past 6, his voice was deep and rasping with drowsiness. It's already evening. She tried to bolt up but he held her waist to keep her down. Tachi, I need to go. Why? Hugh and Day will be home soon and they will be hungry. Actually, Gaara called to say the two had decided to sleep over. Really? Yes, Itachi pulled her closer to his body, inhaling her scent as he did so. So you don't need to get up just yet. What about Kaze-chan? I'd just gotten him to sleep, he relayed. He woke up about half an hour ago and he was hungry. You should have woken me up, she pouted as Onyx met cerulean. I could have nursed him. You were tired, he said. You haven't slept properly since we got Kaze-chan. You even fell asleep on Ino-chan. That reminds me, where are they? They left almost as soon as they got here. I must have been really tired. You were. Itachi agreed. Why don't you go back to sleep? I'm not sleepy anymore. Then what do you want to do? I just want to lay here. They were quiet for a few moments before Itachi spoke. Tell me about Shikamaru, Gaara, and Kiba. His tone was pleading and yet there was an undertone of possessiveness. What do you want to know about them? How about everything? Are you sure? She asked. It's quite a long story. We're not going anywhere. Okay, she sighed. I first met Shika when I was 9 and he introduced me to Kiba. Cerulean eyes welled up with tears as she was once again cornered by the terrible two. Blonde hair up in twin ponytails, her fox backpack slung on her back as she stumbled in front of the row of lockers that lines their school's walls. Look, Karen-chan, Fox Freak is crying, with bright pink hair and haughty emerald eyes, the tallest among the three girls said. I know Sakura-chan, she's such a baby, long red hair and bright ruby eyes. There was no doubt the two were sisters. And did you know she doesn't have a date to the summer party? Sakura squealed as tears continued to flow down the blonde's cheeks. Who would want to go with that foxy freak? As the two conversed, they didn't notice a brown-haired boy about their age looking at them with such anger. Shikamaru watched the scene, his anger seeming to radiate off of him in waves as he stalked over to the three girls. He forced himself to calm down and let a lazy smirk bloom on his face as he approached. Why are you crying, Naru-chan? He asked the downed girl, the sisters' faces lighting up in recognition as they watched him walk toward them. He paid them no heed and instead kept his attention towards the blue-eyed girl staring at him with shock and mild interest. Now you'll have puffy eyes later tonight, he sighed deeply as recognition finally lit up her cerulean orbs and smiled softly at the whiskered blonde. It wasn't my fault, Shika-kun, she sniffled lightly, her eyes glancing briefly at the shocked look on the two bullies' faces. They didn't really know each other, but they've seen the other around. What with Shikamaru being one of the popular boys and Naru as the most obvious target for bullying, they knew each other's reputation at the least. Shika-kun, will you go with me to the summer party? Finally getting over her shock, the fangirl in Sakura made her speak up. Can you ask Kiba-kun if he will go with me? Karen also asked, but they were both ignored. Let's go, Naru. He held his hand out toward the blonde previously sobbing on the floor, smile still in place as he tried to tune the other two out. She took his hand and he pulled her to her feet, her eyes twinkling with mischievousness at what they had just pulled off. Why are you holding her hand? The pair screeched, but they were duly ignored. Shika-kun - Naru and Shikamaru left the two whining, the audience gaping with their hands clasped together. That's how we met, Naru said. That can happen in the 3rd grade, he couldn't quite hide the surprise in his voice. You have no idea. What about Kiba? He was one of the cool guys, Naru explained. Kiba, Shikamaru, Niji, and Lee, those two you haven't met yet. They were all friends, although Niji and Lee were a year older than Kiba and Shikamaru. What about Gaara? He came to Konoha when I was 12. So what happened? Did you see him? He was so handsome. And so mysterious. Naru plugged her ears as she listened to the other girls squeal about something. Sakura and the other bitches are squealing about something again. Kiba's gruff voice was right beside her as she walked to her next class. When have they done something other than squeal? Naru retorted as another presence made itself known to them. There's a new boy in school. The usual lazy drawl had her looking at the pineapple-haired boy. I guess that does make sense, the blonde agreed. Hey, at least they have someone else to ogle now. Kiba said. That should get them off our backs for quite some time. Our backs? The two boys turned to look at her just as they reached the classroom and took their seats with their group. They ogle you guys and then glare at me because I'm friends with all of you. She explained as she sat in between the two. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered as their scarred teacher entered the room followed by a redhead. Class meets Sabaku no Gaara, a transferee from Suna, Iruka announced. Piercing jade eyes met cerulean and the world seemed to stop for the redhead. There was something in the blonde's eyes that just drew him to her. There was a slight upturning of his lips that made the other girls sigh dreamily at him. You can sit on the last row. Naru turned her attention back on the Shikamaru who had already dozed off and then Kiba who was plugging his ears due to the constant squealing. She tried to tune into Iruka's lecture but she couldn't due to the pair of eyes boring holes into the back of her head. She turned back to the redhead who was sitting on the row right behind her and raised an eyebrow at the redhead who was staring at her. He spent the next few weeks stalking me - He stalked you? She could feel his arms tighten around her and could only smile. Well, he followed the gang around, rather he followed me, the school, to the park and sometimes even to my house. Did he dash? No, he didn't, she cut him off before he could continue. He never even spoke to me until we were both 14. 2 years? Well, he was just that odd. So he stalked you for 2 years and then what? The first time he ever talked to me he asked me out on a date. And what did you say? I told him I wasn't interested, she replied. He persisted for 3 months before he finally gave up after Shika and Kiba spoke to him and told him I wasn't interested in any boys. By the time we left when I was 15, the three of us were so close it broke all of our hearts that I had to leave. Luckily, I could come home every year, but it's been tough. What exactly is your relationship with them? She looked him in the eyes and saw the doubt swimming in those dark orbs. You heard them, didn't you? She asked, her eyes never leaving his. That night when I marked you, before you found me, I was with them, and Shika and Gaara were both telling me how much they love me because they knew you were listening. Do you love them? I do, she never flinched. But not in the same way I love you. They're my brothers in the most complicated way possible, something like what I have with Obito. You're gonna have to stop comparing yourself with every other guy that comes into my life. He closed his eyes to avoid the piercing stare. He felt her move his arms and did nothing as she moved away from his embrace. He knew he had hurt her and she probably hated him for asking such things. There was a shift in the weight of the bed and his forehead scrunched up as he tried to figure out what she had done. Tachi-kun, open your eyes. Her voice was soft and sultry and he could feel her breath on his ear. Onyx's eyes flew open in shock and he stared blankly at the blonde woman now straddling him. You know, if I didn't promise my dad that I would save myself for marriage, I would do something to prove to you that you're the only one I will ever love the way I do. You mean you've never dash? No. Then what about the other night? I'm a doctor's daughter who's aspiring to become one myself, she said, smiling cheekily at him. I think I'll learn what I want to learn if I need to. And why did you want to learn about these kinds of things? His smile was teasing as he put both hands on her hips. Maybe I was getting ready for my future husband. She returned the teasing smile and leant down to capture his lips, but was interrupted when Kaze's wail echoed through the room. I guess he's still hungry. Itachi smiled and pulled her down for a quick peck. Why don't you go make some dinner and I'll take care of him, she suggested. What are you hungry for? Surprise me, she smiled as she got off of him to pick up the still crying baby. She could only shake her head as he flashed her a sultry smile before sauntering out of the room. Now more than ever they felt the bond grow stronger between them. She smirked. Next time they talked she would have to ask him about his life. Where is everyone? His voice was loud and rambunctious as he stepped inside his home with his wife in tow. He dropped their bags onto the floor and walked hand in hand up the stairs with the red-headed woman following him quietly. You have to stop speaking so loudly, she berated him as they climbed up the stairs and walked towards their first daughter's room. It is the middle of the night. Opening it slightly, shock crossed their faces as watched their eldest sleep peacefully with a dark-haired man. They were unable to speak for a few moments until their attention was caught by a small sound on a makeshift cot just beside the bed. She has a lot of explaining to do, Minato whispered as Kushina pulled the door close. The baby was blonde. She couldn't hide the surprise in her voice as she stared at the door. He had blue eyes. How do you know it's a he? He was wearing Deidara's baby clothes. We still have those. He walked towards their own room with their hands still intertwined. I haven't exactly gotten around to getting rid of them yet, Kushina said as they entered the large master bedroom. Even cues are still in the attic. I'm sure we'll find out everything tomorrow. He settled her on the bed. For now we get some rest, we'll talk to them in the morning. Zox 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 zox. She hummed happily to herself as she worked in the kitchen. She had woken up that day refreshed and rejuvenated, so she decided to cook breakfast. On the way to the kitchen she found her parents' bags by the front door and knew that they were home, although their appearance did not put a damper on her bright mood. She knew she would have to explain a lot to them, but at the same time she believed they trust her enough to listen before they judge. Good morning, her boyfriend's deep baritone interrupted her inner monologue and she turned to find him cradling their baby. You look so sexy this morning, she teased, her eyes twinkling with delight watching his cheeks turn pink. She walked over to father and son and dropped a kiss on her child's forehead before looking up at Itachi with mischievous sapphire pools. Had a nice sleep? She asked as full pouty lips twitched in a sexy smile. Could have been better, he shrugged, seemingly unaware of her innuendos. I'm sure it could, she smiled, his retort ignored as she went back to the eggs she had been frying, her hips swaying ever so slightly as she walked. Unknown to them, two adults were watching the scene, waiting to be acknowledged by the pair. "I saw the bags by the door," the dark-haired man said as he settled down on the kitchen table carefully. "Are they back?" "I think they're still asleep," she shrugged as she prepared 2 plates. Or not, she turned around to find both her parents standing by the doorway to the kitchen. "Good morning, Ka-chan, Tu-chan," she approached them and gave both a kiss. "Why don't you two sit down while I prepare the food?" "Itachi," Minato said as he sat before the younger man. "I thought that was you last night." "Minato-san," he nodded at the blonde man, then turned to look at the child who had begun to wake up. "Naru-chan, Kaze-chan's hungry." He stood up to hand her the baby and take over the cooking. She hurriedly got a towel to sling over her shoulder just as Kaze began to cry. "Naru, are you nursing him?" her father asked as she sat down in front of them, the child hidden underneath the cloth. "Kakashi-kun gave me the prescription for some of the drugs." "Hi Tu-chan," she looked them straight in the eyes. "Would you mind explaining this to me?" he asked as calmly as possible. "We came home last night to find you sleeping with Itachi, and now you're nursing a baby that looks too much like you. Tell me the truth, is he yours?" "Yes, he's mine," she said. "He's my son and Itachi's the father." "How did you hide this from us?" Kushina finally asked. "He's not ours by blood," she explained. "He's Mari-chan's baby." "Tamari, but she's Dash." "He's only 1 week old," Naru relayed as Itachi began setting the plates in front of them, her eyes growing dim as she remembered her friend. "Gaara and Kankuro, do they know?" "Shika, Gaara, and the rest hid her from me, and Kankuro only found out after Kaze-chan was born. Mari-chan wanted me to be his mother and she met Itachi that day." "So legally you are his parents?" Minato asked, though his attention was back to Itachi, who had sat down next to her and wrapped an arm around Naru's shoulders. "Itachi, do you know?" "If you're talking about our engagement, then yes," Itachi said. "My father told me I was engaged to a Namikaze, but we'll have to wait until she was 20 before I could reveal it to her." "Do you know which Namikaze it was?" "I know we're supposed to be married to each other to unite the 2 companies, so I think it doesn't matter which of your daughters were to be wed to me." "I suppose you're right," Minato agreed. "So what about your arrangement with each other?" Kushina finally spoke up. "We wanted to talk to you about it before we said anything final." Itachi said. "I don't want to go back to Oto," Naru said. "I want to stay here in Konoha." "What about university?" Minato asked. "Konoha University has the same programs that Oto University does," Naru said. "What about Itachi's position in their company?" "I haven't been the CEO for the past 6 months, Itachi was the one to answer. "Sasuke has already taken over the company, so right now I don't have any obligations to my father." "None, other than producing an heir," Minato said slyly, keeping careful watch over his daughter's reaction. "Stop it, Tu-chan," Naru berated her father. "I already knew about that." "You did?" "Itachi doesn't hide anything from me." "Really now?" "I'm gonna get Kaze-chan back to bed," Naru announced as she rose from her seat after breaking away from Itachi's hold. "Ka-chan, can you come with me?" She gave Itachi a pointed look as Kushina rose to follow her eldest child. "You knew where to find Deidara's clothes?" Kushina asked as the pair walked away from the men. "They're not Daichan's, Ka-chan," Naru said as they climbed up the stairs. "Mari-chan and the rest were prepared. Everything I have for Kaze-chan came from them." They entered her room and Naru proceeded to the makeshift cot where she laid her child down, then sat next to her mother. "Why did we leave them downstairs?" "Tu-chan has something to say to Tachi," Naru sighed as she let her head lay on her mother's lap. "They need to talk about the situation as men." "Stupid testosterone." "What do you plan on doing, Naru-chan?" Her mother stroked her hair. "You're only 18. "Ka-chan, I can't leave him alone," she said. "He's Mari-chan's baby and he's my baby now." "But Naru-chan, you can't be a mother yet. You're only a child yourself." "I've already marked him," she confessed to her mother. "He's marked me as well. I won't be alone in this." "Why did you mark him?" "I'd been in love with him for so long that when he pounced on me I just couldn't help myself," she blushed at her own words. According to him, Obito's been stringing him along with stories and pictures of me. He's such a matchmaker. How do you fall in love with a person you've never even met? I don't know Ka-chan, and frankly all I care about right now is that I'm in love with him, he loves me and we have a child together. Is it true that Kaze-chan's legally your son? We're his parents and everything but blood. Are you sure you want to go through with this? I'll never leave Kaze-chan alone, and I really won't be alone anyway. I have Itachi and the rest of the gang with me. You'll have us as well. You will? Of course Naru-chan, Kushina said. You're still our baby, so we'll help you get through this. Zox. I must admit I didn't think things will go so well, Minato commented as Itachi began to clear the table. He simply watched as the younger man did the dishes. The merging of the companies will be finalized after you and Naru settle. You and Sasuke have to come to an agreement then, the dark-haired man asked without turning away from his task. Your father and I have already come to an agreement long before either one of you had been born, Minato said. But your relationship with my daughter will no doubt strengthen our decision to unite our two companies. My relationship with Naru has nothing to do with the merging of Uchiha Corp and Namikaze Incorporated. His voice was calm, yet it had an undertone of aggressiveness to it. She is a lovely young woman whom I have come to love before we even met, and our meeting has only served to clarify my feelings for her. I have nothing to do with my father's company, but then again you knew that. Didn't you, Minato-san? What are you really doing here, Itachi? Minato asked as he motioned for him to sit down. Itachi dried his hands before following. I've heard from your brother, Obito, and even your father of what happened to your relationship with Kasumi. With all due respect, Itachi began. What happened with Kasumi was a long time ago, and I really don't think you have any right to pry about such topics. It was only 7 months ago when you found out that she had cheated on you. A month later she was married to your cousin, and you were forced on leave nearly 2 months ago because she had given birth to twins. You cannot tell me that it was such a long time ago. Minato-san, I understand your apprehension, but I assure you that my intentions with Naru are clear. I do not see her as rebound from my past relationship. In actuality she saved me from myself. He paused and waited for the man's reaction. I met her only a month ago, but I know for certain that I've fallen for her. Obito has told me of her and shown me pictures since they became best friends, and from there I know that somehow I felt a connection to her. Even though I was with Kasumi at that time, I was never really happy. Then how come your father and cousin believe you were the happiest when you were with her? For the first year or so, I was. By the second year it felt like a routine, like something I've gotten so used to that I couldn't live without. But when my father had a heart attack 2 years into our relationship, I focused on trying to keep the company afloat for when Sasuke could take over. What I feel for Naru is something so much more than anything I've felt for anyone else. What about the marriage proposal? I thought that maybe it was time for me to settle down since I'd gotten used to being the CEO of a large, multinational company, and I wanted someone else to share my success. Who better than my own girlfriend? Itachi, I'm sorry if you think I'm meddling, but I just want to make sure that Naru isn't simply being led on. Minato sighed deeply, cerulean staring into Onyx in a silent challenge. I love her and I wouldn't want her to get hurt. Besides, there are certain traditions that you may not know. I understand, Minato-san. Itachi didn't back down. You are merely trying to protect your daughter, but I would like you to know that I am in no way leading her on. She knew about my relationship from Obito, and the day I met her I was inebriated. I was self-destructing. Obito brought her to me knowing she could help me heal. She healed you after one meeting? When she left the next day, I looked for her and asked Obito who she was. He explained to me that she had left with her family for Konoha and then told me he would be visiting her the next month. After that, I couldn't think of anything else but seeing her again. I forgot about Kasumi and the company, and I could only anticipate the day when I would see her again. You have fallen in love with my daughter. The comment was said so offhandedly that it shocked Itachi slightly. What are your plans for the child? We've already decided to keep him. It was Temari's last wish that he be raised as our own in Naru, and I plan to do just that. She's only 18, Itachi. She's not old enough to raise a child by herself. She won't be alone, Minato-san. I plan on standing by her side for the rest of our lives if you would permit it. Are you asking me what I think you are? You said before that there may be some traditions I don't know, Itachi began. There is one that Naru has told me about. It's about the Uzumaki clan's affiliation with the foxes. What are you trying to say? She marked me, and if I understand correctly, then that means we are already married to each other. Then there's nothing I can say that will change your decision, or hers for that matter. Minato sighed deeply. I would still like to ask for your blessing, Itachi told him. As her father, I would like to know that you are on the same page. I love her and I want to be with her. You have my blessing, Itachi. Just promise me that you won't do anything to harm either her or the baby, and we'll get along just fine. Now why don't you go check up on them, he suggested. I would like to rest some more. We'll talk again later. He held his hand out to the younger man as he rose, who in turn gripped it firmly. Welcome to the family, Itachi. He left the kitchen and proceeded up the stairs. Sox. Itachi walked up the stairs a few moments after his wife's father had, only to find that she was already sleeping alone on their shared bed while their son was dozing in his cot. He walked quietly towards her, careful not to wake either one, and climbed into the bed. He pulled her close against him and smiled as she snuggled closer to him after turning so that she was facing his chest. What took you so long? She mumbled sleepily. Your dad wanted to talk to me. I wanted you here, she pouted even as Crystal Blue fluttered close. How come you're so sleepy all the time? It's the medication side effects. The one you're taking so you can nurse Kaze-chan? Sleep now, talk later, she continued to mumble as she snuggled even closer to him. He dropped a kiss on the golden locks before answering. Okay. Zox. You knew Naru didn't know about the air thing, didn't you? Minato didn't deny his wife's accusation, instead he smiled his trademark Namikaze grin. What were you trying to prove? I'm just looking out for our daughter. Minato, you could have taken them apart just by that comment alone. Kushina said as she sat on their bed watching her husband change. If they really loved each other as they claim, they wouldn't break up just because of something I said, he reasoned as he turned to face the fuming redhead. There was no reason to bait Itachi, she remarked. You knew what kind of man he is. That may be so, but I still had to be sure, he shrugged as he settled himself on the bed next to her. After all, she is my baby. Speaking of babies, what time do you think Q and Deidara will be home? I called Gaara, he said the two wanted to stay another night. They're growing up so fast, Kushina sobbed. Naru's already getting married, Q has a crush on Deidara. She began to wail. Shina-chan, you know this means one thing, right? He asked her as he pushed her down onto the bed and hovered atop her. Why don't we make new ones? Her protests were muffled as he kissed her deeply, the room the only witness to their lovemaking. I'm hungry, she complained and waited for her husband's deep voice to reply as she opened her eyes. You should be. It was a feminine voice that answered, one that she recognized and knew well. Ino-chan? Yes, it's me, Naru-chan. The lilting voice of her fellow blonde broke through her sleep-fogged brain. What are you doing here? Sasuke-kun and I came to see you and Itachi-kun just before lunch, but he told us that you'd just gotten to sleep, so we didn't wake you up. What time is it? It's 6:30. Where's your fiancé? Downstairs with your brother. Where's my son? He's with your mother. Ino said just as Naru finally rose from the bed. He's been crying, but I couldn't get him to stop, so your mother came. It seems only the Uzumaki charm can get him back to sleep. That's not true, he sleeps quickly when he's with Tachi. Speaking of Tachi, Ino smiled teasingly at her. I hear he just passed your father's test. Tuchan did the 20 questions with him. How do you know? From what Itachi said, you've been sleeping the whole afternoon. Are you sure you're not hiding something from me? She had an all-knowing smile on her face as she asked. We haven't even gone there, Naru said with a slight blush. But you want to, don't you? Ino nudged her shoulder and Naru laid her head on the other's lap and faced away to hide the pink tinge on her cheeks. Don't worry, I'm sure he'll take good care of you, Her words were full of meaning. Actually, I have taken care of him. But you promised Minato-chan that you'll save it for marriage. Oh please, we didn't do it. So what did you do? I'm betting what we did wasn't even half of what you've done with Sasuke. Ha, I knew it. Naru pointed an accusing finger after rolling over. Shut up, Naru, she tossed her friend from her lap and let the girl roll around laughing. I said shut up. Ino shrieked at the still giggling girl. If you don't stop, I swear I'll tell Minato-chan that you already did it with Itachi. Naru finally stopped laughing only to stare incredulously at her as if daring her to say a word. She rose a blonde eyebrow at Ino. And who do you think he'll believe? She asked. I'm still her baby girl, you know. You're right. I'll find a way to embarrass you though. Good luck with that, Ino-chan. Her hungry stomach finally made itself known through its loud grumbling. Why don't we go feed your complaining belly? Ino rose from the bed and held a hand out to Naru. I'm sure the brothers are done cooking. Really, they're both cooking. She reached for the outstretched hand and let the slim girl pull her up. You have no idea how great the Uchiha's food taste. How do you know? I've seen Sasuke and Itachi cook with their mother, and Fugaku, the greatest Uchiha ever, smiles after he eats. Alright, I believe you. Ino pulled her out of the room and down the stairs, where they proceeded directly to the kitchen to find the whole Namake's family sitting around the table watching the exhibition cook-off that was happening. Itachi and II is so cool. Deidara gushed as Itachi plated his food with a flourish. Sasu and II is way cooler. Hugh took a casual sip from her glass as she said. He beats Itachi and II any time. No, he doesn't. Yes, he does. And there goes the show, both blondes announced together as they finally made their presence known to the rest. Naru approached her mother and took Kaze from her after a quick kiss. Was he good? She asked her red-headed parent. As good as you were when you were just a baby. The comment had a round of snickers going around the table as well as deep chuckles from the chefs of the evening. I love you too, Mom, she smiled, although she knew they were making fun of her. So what's for dinner? She asked the two brothers, or rather, Itachi, as Sasuke was busy with Ino at the moment. I'm famished. I think that's what happens when you miss out on lunch. It's not my fault I'm sleepy, she approached him by the kitchen counter. It's your boy's fault. She turned pouty lips up at him and relished at the glimmer of desire barely noticeable within those dark depths. Not in front of the children. Minato protested. We weren't doing anything, Tuchan. She turned her eyes away from Itachi to glare at her male counterpart. Not yet, you weren't, but I'd rather not see anything, he replied. And Ino, please stop that. Ino pulled away from Sasuke and looked sheepishly at her father figure. You can wait until you two get back to your hotel. Gomen Tuchan, she smiled. Alright, that's enough, let's eat. They settled into their seats around the dining table looking so much like a real family. Zok 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 x. Deidara, we've seen that movie 1,000 times. Hugh protested as her younger brother held up a copy of a famous children's movie. But, I want to see it again. No, let Inone choose the movie. Nah, any Inone-chan, can we watch this please? Why don't you go ask Sasu and I? Sasu and I, can I, please? They had just finished dinner, Naru and Ino having been done with the dishes, and the family decided to watch a movie together. Sasuke and Ino sat beside each other on the floor as they leant against the couch. Naru was sitting on the couch with Kaze in her arms and Itachi holding her close, while Minato and Kushina sat on the love seat opposite the other two couples. The parents looked on in amusement as Sasuke looked in exasperation toward his fiancée and then looking at his older brother for help when she merely smiled at him. Deidara, you can put it on. Minato took pity on the man and finally gave his son the permission he had been asking for. Tuchan. Hugh shrieked in protest, all gaining a laugh from their audience when Deidara stuck his tongue out at her. Tachi, can you hold Kaze-chan for a moment? I'm going to get something to drink. Of course, Naru-chan. Thank you. She passed the sleeping child to him and rose from the couch as she headed for the kitchen. There was a squealing of tires and then the thundering of footsteps up the porch that ended with someone banging on the door. Naru, 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 her name was still being chanted as she pulled open the door only to stumble as she caught an obviously drunk Shikamaru in her arms. She looked down at him in confusion, then to the door to find Obito and Rin running up the steps. Obito, what's going on? I'm sorry Naru, I tried to stop him but he threatened to drive himself if I didn't go with him. What happened? He's been drunk for the past week and a half and we've been trying to stop him from drinking again. I don't know how he got to his father's stash but now he's drunk again. Why didn't anyone tell me what was going on with him? If you haven't noticed, you have a husband and child to take care of now. That doesn't mean you can make my decisions for me, she snapped at her best friend. I am still capable of taking care of everyone I love, so don't you dare take that away from me. She pulled Shikamaru up effortlessly and strode up the stairs with her charge. Nachan, you can take him to my room, I'll sleep with Day tonight. Thanks Q. Naru dash. Let her be Itachi. Minato stopped his soon-to-be son-in-law from following her. But dash. You have to remember who they are to her and who you are now that you're together. I told you Itachi, you're not the only one and you're not the first. Q butted in. But from now on you will be her only man, she nodded as she held her hand out to Deidara, who was still watching the movie quietly, apparently already used to the noise. Let's go Daichan, it's time for bed. But it's not yet done. You can finish it tomorrow. Her voice was stern and the younger boy knew there was no changing her mind. Good night Tuchan, Kaa-chan, Idanai, Ainone, Sasuanai. Good night Deidara, they chorused as Q pulled him up the stairs. Obito, close the door and get in here. Minato shouted as soon as the two children were up the stairs. And bring whoever's with you. Go Minani, Minato-san, the short-haired Uchiha said as soon as he stepped into the foyer with Rin and Gaara right behind him. I really did try to stop him. Sit down, the blonde man all but ordered, and the three settled themselves on the floor. Minato-san dash. Why didn't you tell Naru? We thought she had enough on her hands taking care of Kaze-chan and dealing with Temari's death. We didn't want her to worry, it was Gaara who answered. What exactly did you think was going to happen when she found out? The question was rhetorical. Didn't you think that she would worry even more than if she could have stopped it earlier? We did, but dash. You didn't think this through, you should have told her the moment things went downhill. But dash. You know how she gets when it's about either you or Shikamaru, Gaara. Why didn't you tell her? I saw what she was going through after my sister died. Gaara ran his hands through his already messy hair. I didn't want to add to her problems, so I tried to be strong for both her and Shika, but now I realize it just wasn't enough. We both need her in our lives. His last statement was said as he stared at Itachi, the older man looking unflinchingly back at him. What exactly happened? Shika just shut down, Gaara relayed. The first 3 days after, he didn't eat, he barely slept, and he wouldn't talk to anyone. I wanted to call Naru desperately, but then I knew she was already going through so much. The days after that he took to drinking, said it numbed the pain somewhat and let him forget. After 6 days of constant drinking we finally took away the sake and hid everything, but it seemed as if he's found his father's hidden stash and he just went right back to it. Obito continued. Then this afternoon he accused us of hiding Naru. He said we were keeping them away from each other and he went straight to his car. He would have driven himself if I didn't offer to drive him here. Maybe you were keeping them away from each other. Minato commented. Why would you do that? Gaara, you have to tell her. This time it was Kushina who urged him to talk. You don't need to tell us, but you have to tell her. The three of you promised no secrets. Alright, he sighed in defeat. But I think Itachi should be there. He has to hear what I have to say. The elder Uchiha nodded and Kushina reached out for his son. He gave Kaze to her willingly and then followed Gaara up the stairs. Zok 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 kex. Shika, why are you doing this to yourself? She's gone, he slurred as he lay on the bed with Naru leaning over him as she wiped a wet cloth on his forehead. I don't have anything to live for anymore. What about Gaara and me? You're married, he sobbed. I'm not supposed to love you anymore. But you've always loved me. She lay next to him, her head on his chest and her arms around him. I know, he tried to nod but had to hold his head as a wave of dizziness passed through him. But I can't anymore because you have a husband now. I don't like seeing you hurt. I feel like it's me who's hurting you. No, it's not you, he hugged her closer to him. It's me, it's always been me. You told me and Gaara that you weren't interested and yet we hoped. You don't sound drunk. Gaara's husky baritone interrupted whatever Naru was going to say as he stepped inside the room. I wasn't really drunk. Naru turned her attention back to Shikamaru, not noticing that the redhead had kept the door ajar. The brown-haired man holding her scooted over to one side so that Gaara could lay down beside Naru. I'd detoxified enough to think clearly. It was just a show so you would have no choice but take me here. I'm sorry Shika, I didn't really think it would affect you this much. Zox. Itachi's eyes widened as he peeked through the small gap. He felt jealousy rear its ugly head within him as possession crashed through him in waves. You weren't the first, you are not the only one, but from now on you will be her only man. Hugh's voice rang through his head, the only thing that kept him in place instead of storming into the room. Zox. My feelings for you never changed, Gaara finally said after a pregnant moment of silence. I don't like Matsuri. I need her around because she's good with what she does and I need her help. I actually need her help to take care of Sasori because I couldn't think of anything but you, and Shika. Gaara? Naru's voice was gentle and confused as he stared at the redhead who had one arm around her waist, all the while keeping some of his attention on Shikamaru who had stiffened behind her. At first it was just you Naru, he averted his eyes. I would fantasize about you and I had dreams about the things we would do together if you would just choose me and then you left. I still thought of you, still had dreams about you but soon they shifted to someone else. You two were the first friends I'd ever had and I didn't want to ruin everything by saying something stupid or doing something that would scare you off so I tried to hide it, to control it but I couldn't. It was overwhelming, the only time I'd ever felt something like it and then we kissed. You kissed, she turned to face Shikamaru who had a very noticeable blush on his face, accusing blue eyes trying to capture a vase of chocolate brown. Why don't I know about this? It was a stupid dare. Gaara muttered behind her as he sidled closer so she could feel his chest on her back. He was dared to kiss the cutest guy in the room. Kiba thought it would definitely be him and Shika took everyone by surprise by kissing me smack on the lips. I thought it was just me, Shika muttered quietly. I thought I must have been crazy because I'd felt something I didn't feel even with Temari. I told her the next day and she said she understood, that she'd seen the signs and was just waiting for me to tell her in person. We got even closer together after that, even when we weren't going out anymore but I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want anything to change between the three of us. Zox. Itachi finally understood why the three had been so close. While it was true that Naru had brought them all together and what was keeping them together, he knew nothing was going to happen with Naru so he left. After pulling the door closed behind him as silently as he could, he shook his head and left them alone. He didn't want to intrude on their privacy any longer. Inside the room, none of the three noticed the door close. Zox. I can't believe I didn't see it coming. You were always oblivious when it came to those people around you. That's not true, I got Hina and Kiba together as well as Niji and Tenten. Then there's also Tayuya and Kimimaro and Dash. We get it, you're a little matchmaker. Shikamaru interrupted. But it seemed as if even you didn't see this one coming. So what happens now? Nothing changes, the two chorused. What? She rose, breaking away from both their embrace. How can you say that? You both have feeling for each other. You can't just go on as if you don't know about it and nothing has happened, she protested. Nothing has happened. Shikamaru pointed out, refusing to look Gaara in the eye as he did. Oh really? She asked. Then how come you're both hard? She asked as she stared at them pointedly. Naru, they screeched in protest as they both tried to scramble into hiding their reactions from the other. Why were you looking there? I'll have you know I didn't look, she sniffed haughtily. I was lying in between you and I could feel at the moment you two started reacting to one another's presence. What are you talking about? When Gaara hugged me from behind, he reached for your arm and I could feel him poking me, and when Sheikah turned to face me I could see that flush he gets when he's aroused. I didn't have to look or feel him to know what happened. And how would you know what he looks like when he's aroused? Gaara asked, eyebrows raised. There was this dash. Naru, you promised you wouldn't say anything about that. Shikamaru interrupted. But now that I know about this, he should know. And oh, he shouldn't. Yes, I think he should. What are you two talking about? The first time I saw Sheikah's face when he was around was when he dashed. She was tackled to the floor and she found herself staring up into angry brown eyes with Shikamaru's hands on her mouth as he straddled her. She simply rose an eyebrow at him until he took his hands off her mouth. Seriously, Sheikah, I already told you many times. Get out. He got off of her, pulled her to her feet and directed her to the door. But Sheikah. No, Nara, get out. She was pushed out of the door and it was slammed shut in her face. I was just going to say that this was my house. She shook her head before remembering that they hadn't actually told her what they wanted to tell her, unless that was it, or maybe Sheikah didn't. Scratching her head in confusion, she opened the door to ask them exactly what they needed of her, only to find them busy getting lost in each other's arms. Oblivious? Really? She locked the door as she pulled it close before heading back to the living room to find her family. Zox. Where's everyone? Naru asked her husband, who was sitting on the couch with Kaze cradled gently in his arms. Sasuke and Ino went back to their hotel. They said they'll come back tomorrow. Itachi said as she sat next to him. Tuchan and Ka-chan retired to bed, as did Q&A. So why is my husband still here? She laid her on his shoulder. I have a question. Alright, ask. How long have you been planning on getting those two together? I have no idea what you're talking about. She feigned ignorance but refused to look him in the eyes. And I don't know that you told Ino what happened between us. Her head whipped round to face him. No, I didn't. You didn't tell her everything, but you said something had happened. She sighed before replying. I found out about their orientation 2 years into our friendship. They didn't know, of course they wouldn't, but I saw the signs. I didn't want to force them into anything. And the kiss? You were listening? Gaara invited me to listen. She flushed angrily but then smiled. So did you orchestrate that too? Maybe. She smiled coyly up at him, leading him to kiss her softly. They're right, you are a matchmaker. How ironic, she said. I've been matched by my own best friend. No, I think we did that all by ourselves. He kissed her again. I agree. Deidara, be careful, she warned, the blonde streak running across the yard. Her own blonde locks cascading down her back, framing her beautiful face and emphasizing her striking blue orbs. I will, Nachan. The boy waved at her as he ran to catch up to a red-haired boy. Need any help? Her fiancé's deep baritone made her jump slightly. No, I'm fine, Tachi. She waved dismissively at him as she set the table once more. Naru. Not now, Tachi, everything needs to be perfect. Naru. I can't mess up today. Naru. It's very important for both you and I that everything. She was spun quickly, arms enclosing her, trapping her against the lean warm body of her fiancé as he claimed her lips within his. Her response was reflexive as she flung both arms around his neck to run her hands through his hair and pull him closer to her. Can I talk to you now? His smirk was smug as onyx clashed with sapphire. His smirk grew wider at the flush on her cheeks, the slightly dazed look she sported and the non-equals committal grunt he received in response. Stop fussing. Nothing wrong will happen today because you have prepared everything so beautifully. My parents will love you, and even if they don't, which I doubt will be the case, I will be there to stand by you the whole time. Sorry, Tachi, she muttered in defeat, closing her eyes to keep from looking at the smolder in those dark orbs of his. I just. He stopped her once more with another kiss. Everything's fine, he reminded her. Sasuke and Ino are on their way right now. Gaara is here to support you, your siblings are around and Shikamaru is coming as well. We're all here for you. Thank you, she leant her head against his chest and breathed deeply to calm her racing pulse. I love you, he said it because there was no other word that would comfort her as those 3 words would. Love you too, Itachi. Now why don't you go get ready, they'll be here soon. But I dash. Go Naru, he told her. I will stay here to wait for them. And no, it doesn't matter if you're here when they arrive. Fine, she said. I need to check on Kaze-chan anyway. Take your time, her smile was bright as she turned away from her supportive soon-equals-to-be husband. Itachi turned at the squealing of tires, eyebrows raising as his brother and Sasuke's fiancée stumbled out of the car, both adults barely catching themselves before they ran toward him. Itachi, I'm so sorry, Sasuke gasped out as he stood in a somewhat dignified stance in front of the elder Uchiha. What's wrong? I tried stopping them. Sasuke. But they wouldn't listen to me. Sasuke. I really tried. Sasuke, twin voices chorused, stopping the short-haired man in mid-sentence. He stared at his blonde fiancée who had her hands on her hips as she stared at him with an eyebrow raised, his brother in a similar position. Are you calm now? Itachi said in his deep and bored monotone. Yeah, sorry. Now what was it you were trying to tell me? Kaa-chan and Tu-chan are on their way here. I already knew that. They invited Shursui over. Oh. Well, Kaa-chan invited them over. Sasuke continued. According to her, since you have your own fiancé now, you should mend fences with them, especially Kasumi. How long until they get here? They were right behind us, but I gunned it as soon as we got to the expressway, and I just know 2=Chan is trying to buy you some time. There's no need for that, Itachi assured him. I have no plans of letting her get to me, not when I have Naru by my side. Itachi, don't do that. Sasuke's voice was soft, but both Ino and Itachi heard him quite clearly. Don't close yourself off. I'm sorry, he finally admitted after a pregnant moment of silence. We're here to support you. Ino said as she embraced him, the normally stoic man relaxing to the touch. Pull yourself together, Sasuke put a hand on his shoulder. They'll be here soon. Why don't you go upstairs, talk to Naru to calm yourself, and we'll call you both when they get here. I can't dash. We'll watch the kids. Ino said as she turned him round to face the door. Go. Itachi nodded gratefully and then stepped inside. Zox. Naru watched her child sleep. She had just finished her shower, thankful that Itachi had forced her upstairs to get ready. Sighing softly, she picked up the small boy and smiled at him when crystal blue eyes fluttered open to meet similarly cerulean orbs. We're going to meet your Tuchan and Kaa-chan, she told him, laughing softly at the toothless smile he said. They're your Ba-chan and Ji-chan. The soft click of the door broke her gaze away from her baby, and she looked up only to meet her fiancé's panicked gaze. What's wrong, Tachi? She's coming, he closed his eyes, ashamed that he felt so vulnerable. Who's coming? She rose from the bed as she asked, though she had a vague idea of who he was talking about. My ex. Which ex? She stood in front of him, Kaze still in her arms. Kasumi. Who is she? She's the... Itachi, you need to talk about it. You haven't told me. Tachi, do you trust me? Of course I do, he glared at her, but she could see past the angry exterior, the confusion in his onyx orbs so clear to her cerulean ones. Then why don't you want to tell me? It's not that, it's just that He sighed, running a hand through his hair as he did. Do you trust me? She led him back to the bed. Yes, he captured her gaze, waiting for the accusation within her sapphire orbs, but he could only see the love and understanding in her eyes. Do you want to be with me? Yes. Do you love me? His eyes widened, but he answered without hesitation. How can you even ask me that? Do you love me? She repeated the question, ignoring his protest. You know I do. I love you too, Tachi. I want to be with you. I trust you and I want to know everything about you. But Tachi, please, I want to know. Alright, he crumbled under the imploring gaze of his soon-to-be wife. I loved her. He saw the flash of hurt in her orbs, but he continued after she smiled in encouragement. Zox. Tu-chan, I trust the journey was well? Sasuke addressed his father as soon as the Uchiha couple had emerged from their vehicle. It was sufficient, the patriarch said with a curt nod. Where are they? Mikoto gushed. They're getting ready, Miko-chan, Ino said as she captured the older woman's hand in hers. Then we'll simply have to wait for them. Mikoto nodded as she was led to a lawn chair and assisted to sit down. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to go get Minato-san and Kushina-san. They are currently in the kitchen preparing some of our lunch. Sasuke bowed, then went inside the house. So where is he? Ino narrowed her eyes at the speaker, obviously disapproving towards the offhanded way she asked her question. He's with his fiancée in their rooms getting ready. The blonde relished in the other woman's furious gaze, but it was quickly covered up and the dark-haired woman sneered at her. I hope they're just getting ready. She turned away from Ino and marched inside the house without any kind of invitation, leaving an angry blonde in her wake. Miko-chan, I don't understand why you wanted to invite her here. I wanted them both to come to terms with what had happened, but it seems I was wrong in my assumption that they could forgive one another. I just hope she doesn't ruin this day for either Itachi or Naru. Sure, Sway, do you need any help? The two women looked up to find Itachi striding over his older cousin and offering his assistance in getting the twin 8-month-old boys from the car seats. Itachi We can talk later, for now we should get inside, Itachi interrupted as he reached inside to get one baby boy out of the car. If Itachi-kuan's here, then Naru-chan is already downstairs as well. We should go inside to prevent any fights from happening. Fugaku, who had been quietly watching what had been happening, finally spoke up. Zox. I don't understand why Koto-chan wanted to invite her. The whisper was supposed to be quiet, but it sounded more of a hiss than anything. She just wanted peace between all parties involved. He tried to soothe her, but the red-headed woman was not to be deterred. She's too optimistic for her own good. Kushina muttered. I only needed to see her once to know that she's too spiteful to even consider repairing their relationship. They're too emotional. Minato scoffed but quieted after a glare from his wife. Zox. Cerulean orbs followed the way the dark-haired woman moved. They gazed upon the slim form, despite the pregnancy she had gone through not even a year before, and caught the way her expression changed from disdain, spite, anger, and jealousy as she looked at the pictures displayed around the living room. She watched as manicured fingers traced the titles of the movies on the shelf, and then the carefully trimmed toenails glistened their pink color as her heels clacked against the wooden floor while she crossed over to the bookshelf. Looking at her, Naru couldn't help but wonder how Itachi had ever fallen for her, but she settled her own disputes by thinking that it was her, Naru, whom he loved now. That was all that mattered. You must be Kasumi, she said with a gentle smile on her face, watching with great amusement as the other woman dropped the book she had been holding by her nails. Who are you? Naru grinned at the accusation in her tone as she stepped towards the couch and settled herself carefully so as not to jostle the sleeping babe in her arms. I'm the daughter of this house's owners, she smiled, still at the look of outrage in her supposed-to-be guest's face. And this is my son Kaze-chan. She turned her smile upon the child's sleeping visage, her lips curving softly at the peaceful sight. I knew you were a slut, the voice dripped with accusation, but Naru ignored the personal jab. He's only 2 weeks old, you know. Instead she continued to talk. I am so happy Itachi-kun was already here when I got him. What are you talking about? I had been waiting for him for quite some time, and it was just lucky that he came home when he did. You're lying. Naru looked up into furious hazel orbs. Why don't you ask him yourself, she suggested as she rose from her seat. Maybe you can talk to him after lunch, she told Kasumi before sweeping out of the room and meeting the amused onyx eyes of her fiancé, who stood leaning against the hallway's wall as he eavesdropped. I didn't say anything that wasn't true, she said at his raised eyebrow, then walked past him and into the kitchen. Need any help, Ka-chan? Itachi shook his head but followed her anyway. He understood fully why she needed to lay her claim upon him, and he could only smile at the thought. Forgetting about his fuming ex in the other room, he followed his soon-to-be wife into the kitchen where everyone else was already waiting. Zox. Kasumi, I assume. She was accosted by a blonde man as soon as her hunger had gotten the better of her and she had decided to get into the kitchen. She nodded meekly as she stared into the crystal blue eyes that she could just get lost into. Why don't you join us? The question was inquired by a red-headed woman with gentle jade orbs. She couldn't say anything as she was led to a chair next to her husband, who had been busy feeding their sons, by the same blonde man. Aren't you hungry yet, Sumi-chan? Her husband's deep baritone startled her with its intensity, and for the life of her she couldn't remember what had made her so angry. With a curt nod she began to take food and pile them onto her plate, ignoring everyone around her but listening to their talks. I didn't know you could cook, she heard Itachi speak softly to Naru, who grinned widely at the praise. It's just one of the many talents you have yet to see. Her eyelids fluttered coyly as a pink hue rose to her cheeks. I do intend on discovering all of them. The room was lost to the couple as their gazes caught, and Kasumi felt something constrict in her chest at the sight. Just how many of those talents have you discovered, Itachi? She turned her attention to the other end of the table where the most out-of-place Uchiha sat with a woman whom she supposed was his girlfriend. Enough to know that I love her with everything that I am. Itachi's answer was quick and without hesitation, and she couldn't help but think that Itachi had always been smooth with his words. Naru, her attention was once more caught by the blonde man, who had then stared at his daughter with raised eyebrows, but she detected the slight scandalized tone in his voice as he continued to look at the blushing blonde sitting next to Itachi. You didn't? He asked, and yet the accusation was there in his voice, and Kasumi could hear the snortle of laughter that Obito had been trying to suppress. Of course not. Naru protested, though she blushed harder. But Minato tried to encourage her to talk, but she deflected his questions. I hardly think this is the type of talk we should be having at the dining table, especially with guests around. Don't worry about it, Naru-chan, we're all family here, so we will understand. The laughter in the odd Uchiha's voice was evident, especially with the shaking of his shoulders as he spoke. Of course we are Obito-kun, which is exactly why I wouldn't mind sharing a little tidbit of information that I'm sure everyone is just so eager to find out. And what would this information be, Naru-san? This time it was the Uchiha patriarch who reacted at the banter. Please, Fugaku-tachan, there's no need for formalities. Naru waved a hand in the air in dismissal. After all, we are family, as Obito-kun has so succinctly pointed out. Indeed. Let me correct myself then. What is it that Obito is hiding from us, Naru-chan? Turning away from his nephew, who was gaping beside his girlfriend. Well, I get it, Naru-chan. Obito suddenly announced from the other end of the rather large table. No more talking about things that shouldn't be spoken of. But I really think they should know, Obito-kun. She batted her eyelashes at him, receiving a growl in return and leading their audience to explode in loud laughter, giggles and chuckles, all but Kasumi. She still didn't know what to think of Itachi's new beau. Eat, Naru. Itachi held out a morsel of food stuck on a fork to his fiancée, who had been busy laughing jovially. Only then did Kasumi notice that the couple was sharing a plate and Naru still held Kaze in his arms. She turned to her side to find that her own husband was busy feeding their sons, his plate still full with barely touched food. Wondering briefly why she had been ignoring her boys, she sighed, put her fork down and spoke to her husband for the first time that day. Sure, Sway, you have to eat as well. She caught his attention, her husband looking up in surprise, spoon suspended in midair as he stared at her in shock. I just have to finish feeding them, he said after some time of hesitation. I'll do it. She held her hand out for the spoon he was holding. I'm full anyway. Eat, you must be tired and hungry after the long drive. Are you sure? Shursui had a look of amazement in his eyes. Yes, now give me the spoon and feed yourself. Kasumi rolled her eyes at his reaction. She hadn't always ignored them, had she? Ignoring everyone else in the room, she settled on feeding her babies, watching from her peripherals everything that was happening around them. Zox. Where are the kids? Naru asked Itachi before he could put another spoonful into her mouth. They're outside with Gaara and Shikamaru, he said as he fed her another bite. Shikamaru said it would be better for the children to be outside rather than here with us because of all the adult talk that would be going around. What adult talk? He could see the confusion in her sapphire gaze, but they were interrupted by Fugaku's voice as he spoke to them all. Itachi, I would like to clarify that you both know what your responsibilities are? Of course, father. Itachi settled his hand on one of Naru's, the one not holding their son. Did you tell her about the contract? No, it was her own father who told her. Itachi shook his head and then leveled his gaze with that of his father's. I did everything by the rules stated within the bounds of the contract. It's true, Fugaku, it was I who revealed the Uchiha Namake's engagement to my daughter, as I had wanted to know how far they would go for each other. After she told me that she already knew, especially of that one major clause in our agreement, I knew she would do anything to keep him out of trouble. How did you know I was lying too, Chan? You said Itachi told you about your engagement, but I knew that as an Uchiha, he would still follow the rules, everything by the book and to the last letter. Minato looked straight into his daughter's eyes. Most of the time I don't know if you're lying or not, but that time I knew only because I was the one to write the document. Why wasn't he allowed to tell me then? It was stated within the contract that I would not reveal anything toward my chosen fiancé until she turned 20 and you're only 18. Does that matter? Naru asked her future husband. The gap between our ages? No, it doesn't, Naru. He could see the doubt clearly in those cerulean orbs, and he hated how they were both put on the spot by their parents. It doesn't matter to me because I love you. His declaration was met with a small grin. I knew about our engagement since I was 15, granted I didn't know I was supposed to be married to you, but I didn't fall in love with you because of a piece of paper our fathers had signed. For 3 years your best friend and my cousin had been stringing me along with stories and pictures of you, although he didn't do it on purpose. He was so fascinated by you, and that in turn encouraged me to know more about you, Naru Uzumaki Namake's. The whole person and not just the name written on some signed document. Tachi, do you think we could? The rest of the party didn't hear what was said, but they did see the way Itachi's eyes widened and his breath hitched as he stared at Naru in shock. I could never deny you anything, love, he declared. You know that, but I want to know if you're sure about this. Of course, she said. I made a promise to Tuchan and I think it's about time I fulfilled that promise. What about Kaze-chan? He's a part of us now, isn't he? Yes, he is. He pulled her closer against him, their position slightly awkward due to the small boy in her arms, and kissed her forehead. Anything, I'll do anything for you. What are you two talking about? Ino asked, bewildered at the strange attitude of the one she considered a sister. Nothing you need to know about. Naru said, but then she had to suppress a yawn as she spoke. I told you to go to bed early last night. Itachi's chiding was gentle as he took Kaze from her arms. I couldn't really with you doing. Her voice was muffled as she covered her mouth with a hand, and then Kaze-chan woke up in the middle of the night hungry. She yawned once more and leaned her upper body against Itachi's chest, her head resting on his shoulder. Come on, love, let's go upstairs so you can have a nap. I don't want to. She lifted a hand to her mouth as it began to open in another sleepy yawn. We have guests. I'll take care of them after I get you into bed. He got her out of the chair with Kaze still in his arms and guided her out of the room, ignoring the curious expressions on their families' faces as he towed her to their bedroom. Zox. Why is she always tired? The blonde woman was waiting for him as he descended down the stairs, his long hair swishing behind him as he did. The last time we were here she actually fell asleep on me. She's nursing Kaze-chan, of course she'll be tired. He refused to go into it more than he did, especially with the others around. But he's dash. Ino-chan, stop badgering Aniki. Sasuke finally intervened, exiting the kitchen with 2 glasses in his hands and handed one to his fiancée. Naru-chan will tell you anything you want to know, so you'll simply have to wait for her to wake up. But Sook, her eyes were wide, her lips pursed in a pout that had the youngest Uchiha turning away from her. I just want to know, she whined. And you'll find out soon, but not before either one of them are ready to tell you. Fine, you're no fun anyway. She walked past him and out of the house, ignoring the raised eyebrow that seemed to come with the Uchiha genes. Defeated by a Tuto? Itachi couldn't resist, he just had to say something to his younger brother. Please, as if you're any better, Sasuke began to walk outside where the rest of the family had already settled themselves. Just wait until Naruto figures out your greatest weakness and uses it against you. What about the dishes? Itachi asked as he walked right behind him. He didn't bother to tell Sasuke that Naruto already knew his weakness. Rinsan and Kushina-chan along with Ka-chan already did them. They stepped outside together, into the backyard where a long table had been set out under two large sakura trees that were in bloom. Minato too, you can't do that. They watched as Ino made to grab something from the Namake's patriarch. As they looked closely they noticed that it was a piece from the shogi board. Now Ino-chan, you know that was a legal move. The blonde man grinned widely at Ino, ignoring the pout on those full lips. I haven't played this game in so long too-chan. Of course Ino-chan, there wouldn't be any reason for you to lose besides that. The tone was mocking and yet not hurtful. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that you can't strategize to save your life. It's not my fault I'm not as smart as lazy-ass over there. She pointed towards the brunette who was sitting with his back against the large trunk with a redhead on his lap. Don't get me involved in anything you troublesome blonde. I didn't know you knew Shikamaru, Ino-chan, Itachi commented when they finally neared their family. Well, we do know each other though not as close as he is with Naruto-chan. I had been wondering, Itachi continued as he sat next to her. Why do you call Minato Tausen as your father? My parents died in a car accident when I was 10. Ino shrugged when he tried to apologize. Minato too adopted me and I grew up in this family. I chose not to go with them when they left for Odo and it was the best decision I had ever made because then I wouldn't have met Sukuen. So I assume you knew Temari-chan as well? We were called the triple blonde thread up until Naruto-chan left Dash. And for a really good reason too. Minato exclaimed from across them until Itachi made a move that kept him silent as he thought of a counter. Itachi turned to Ino in question. It's just that no boys could ever come between us. Ino said. Itachi nodded and then looked around. He noticed Shursui sitting on the grass with the two cradles holding his nephews beside him. Where's Kasumi? She's inside, Sasuke answered him. I'm going to talk to Shursui. He moved another piece on the board. It seems like you win, Ino-chan. Thank you, Ida-kun. She kissed his cheek then ushered him away. Now go talk to your wayward cousin. Sox. Why aren't you outside with the rest? I thought you were supposed to be taking a nap. I did. The blonde sat down in front of the dark-haired woman sitting on their couch. It's been half an hour already. How come you're so tired? It's because I'm taking care of my son, Naruto said. How dare you? Narrowed hazel eyes were directed at her but she met it with unflinching cerulean orbs. Shursui's so tired, or haven't you noticed that? Of course I know he's tired. Kasumi yelled. He's my husband. Then why aren't you doing anything to help him? She was calm as she asked. It's his own fault, she hissed. If he didn't get me pregnant then we wouldn't even be in this situation. Did he rape you? What? Kasumi seemed scandalized. No, of course not. Did he force you? It was the same question but she asked anyway. No one can force me to do anything. Kasumi growled out, seconds away from launching herself at the calm blonde in front of her. If that's true then there's no way he coerced you into sleeping with him. Naruto leaned back against the chair, her eyes flicking to the baby monitor she had laying on the coffee table. He wouldn't do that to me. Kasumi, what are you really doing here? Itachi's mother invited us over. That's true but I know you're uncomfortable being here, proven by the fact that you're hiding in my living room. I know you could have declined and yet you came. Why? That's none of your business. Itachi's my fiancé, if you want something with him then it definitely is my business. Don't talk as if you're the only one who's ever gotten into that situation. Oh. So he proposed to you then? Naruto asked though she didn't have to. Obito had already told her what happened and Itachi confessed everything as well. No, but he was going to. Kasumi stopped short when she realized what exactly happened that night when Itachi was supposed to be proposing to her. Why did you sleep with Shursui? Why didn't you just break up with Itachi when he got control of the company? Because. Did you want to hurt him? And no. Then why didn't you say anything once he got too busy to pay attention to you? Because. Did you even love him? I loved Itachi. Kasumi rose to stand threateningly over Naru. I did love him, she seemed to fold into herself when she realized what she had said. But I fell for Shursui when I first met him. She didn't know why she telling her supposed to equals berival this, but she continued to talk anyway. With Itachi there was always something missing, she confessed. It was strange that Shursui had the something that Itachi didn't. At first I was in denial because I didn't want to hurt Itachi. I tried to ignore what I felt with Shursui. They were cousins and I didn't want to come between them. What happened? I know what Obito must have said to you. He's always resented me for what I did to both Shursui and Itachi. They'd been best friends until I came into their lives. The fact is, I never even slept with Itachi, it was Shursui and only him. He was my first, my last and my only. What about Itachi? I realized that what I felt for him wasn't even near my feelings for my husband and I began to draw away from him. When he got the company I made excuses for myself, reasons why I had to see Shursui, and I blamed Itachi. I told myself that it was his own fault because he didn't pay enough attention to me, that he should have thought twice before taking on such a big responsibility. What now? I hated myself for hurting both of them, especially Itachi because of everything we'd been through, so I shut myself off. I didn't allow myself to feel anything because then I'd have to admit that it was my fault. That I did it because I was selfish. Why are you really here, Kasumi? I wanted to meet the girl who'd gotten Itachi's heart as her own. Kasumi admitted, finally looking up to meet Naru's surprised gaze. And frankly I wanted her to be a horrible young woman so that Itachi would have no choice but to leave her. I couldn't be more happy because I turned out to be wrong and seeing you with him, I know that what you two have is real. How so? Naru asked, even through the flush in her cheeks. I told you something was missing with Itachi. Kasumi said. He was never as tender and sweet as he was with me, and I'm actually jealous that you got him to open that side of him. I wanted that, and Shursui showed me what I'd been missing with your fiancé. It may not be obvious, but I do love Shursui and my sons. Then what are you still doing here? I may love Shursui now, but it doesn't change that I loved Itachi as well. Kasumi rose in her full Uchiha glory. Hurt him and you won't know what hit you. It was a crude threat for one such as an Uchiha to make, but Naru could only smile as Kasumi swept out of the room without another word. Sighing softly to herself she rose to follow but stayed leaning against the door as the dark-haired woman approached Shursui and Itachi, who had apparently been talking as well. Zox. Itachi looked up in surprise when Kasumi came sauntering out of the house in their direction. They had heard the yells but they were stopped from coming inside by both parents. He saw Naru follow Kasumi but stop at the doorway and he knew she was watching for something. Shursui, can we go home? He turned his attention to his cousin who was in a state of shock. This day had nothing but surprises for all of them. Already? Shursui's voice came out high-pitched and Itachi couldn't suppress the chuckle that bubbled in his throat. Sumi, what are you doing? This time it dropped into a husky groan as the woman settled herself on her husband's lap. I want to spend time with you and our sons, she declared, seemingly ignoring everyone else's presence. Especially Itachi's as he sat next to them both, when she kissed him passionately on the lips. Sumi? Shursui gasped out as soon as they pulled away from each other. I want to be alone with you, Suikuen. Itachi forced his head away from the couple who were only seconds away from devouring each other in front of all of them and searched for his fiancée. She was still leaning on the door, a small amused smile on her lips and her eyes dancing with mischievousness. Smirking at her, his eyes darkened at the lust that flashed in her orbs before it was replaced with something akin to excitement, anticipation, or nervousness. I'll leave you two to it then, he told the couple who had been busy with each other. Itachi, Kasumi called out to him as he rose and their gazes met. No one spoke, everyone held their breath but the pair didn't talk. Itachi nodded because they'd already had a conversation and he understood what she was trying to say. Take care of Shursui and the twins Kasumi, those were his parting words as he strode over to his still smiling soon-to-be wife. Maybe they should get married soon, because if they were to wait a little longer she wouldn't be able to keep her promise to her father that she would save herself for marriage. I won't ask you what you said to her, he told her as he captured her lips in a chaste kiss that quickly turned heated. I still stand by what I said, you're a little matchmaker. He kissed her again, pushing her back against the hardwood while simultaneously pulling her close to him so that she could feel his hardness on her stomach. Groaning loudly as she wrapped her legs around his waist, he pulled her up and looked straight into her eyes. Let's get married, Naru. Are you alright, Tachi? She asked the man sitting on the bed in their hotel room. You look tired, she commented as she approached him. She was still in her gown mere hours after the large wedding that their parents had planned for them. I'll be fine, love, he assured her, placing both hands on her waist and pulling her close to him. Certainly not too tired for our wedding night. His smile was cheeky but there was a smolder in his eyes that belied his true feelings. Are you sure? She flashed him a teasing smile, fully aware of the effects it had on him. You look like you could use a massage. She pushed him down on the bed and straddled his prone body. I want more than a simple massage. His voice was deep and husky, his words full of meaning. Maybe I want that too. She led his hand to the back of her dress and waited patiently for him to unzip it while she unbuttoned his shirt. That feels so much better, she sighed in relief as her torso was released from the tight bodice. I think you looked nice in it, he commented as he helped her out of the willowy dress. It accentuated everything. He trailed off as her creamy skin slowly appeared for his eyes. Like what you see, Tachi, her lips were so close to his he could feel them move as she spoke. Seems your little friend agrees with me. She smiled a sultry smile, one that had him reacting to her voice as well as her touch. Take off your shirt for me, love, I find that it's in my way, she whispered against his ear, her teeth catching the fleshy lobe as she nibbled on it. He rose from his prone position and pulled off the offending garment, her dress pooling on her legs as she ended up on his lap. We don't have to do anything tonight, love, his voice was pure seduction even when he was trying to ward her off. Not until you're ready. I think you're lying, Tachi, she put both hands on his shoulder as he ground her hips against his, relishing in the groan he emitted and the way he threw his head back with his eyes closed. It's only been 3 months since our first official meeting and we may have done several things, but how long has it been since the last time you've actually been satisfied? Even she couldn't hide the moan that escaped through her lips as she continued her movements against him. Are you asking me about my... He trailed off when she bit his neck and continued to trail kisses onto his bare chest. I was just making sure you wouldn't back away from me. His grip on her hips tightened, his fingers digging through the fabric of her gown. Because this tension between us has been there since we first met. How dash. It's been there, Tachi, she whispered against his ear. I could feel it. Well, I don't think you strutting around your room naked helped at all, he reminded her of the instances when she had foregone clothes. You have no idea how much I wanted to take you then. He pulled down the dress and left it pooling on the floor. You look beautiful on top of me, his voice sent shivers running up and down her spine, goosebumps raising on her arms in anticipation. Stop teasing, he ordered through clenched teeth as he captured both her hands in his. I need you, Naru, he flipped them over so that she was below him. Right now. I thought you said we didn't have to do anything tonight. She raised an eyebrow at him but quickly quieted as he released her breasts from their confinement. I did, he captured her lips in a fiercely passionate kiss. You convinced me otherwise. Pants off. Now, she said through gritted teeth as his kisses reached her neck. So impatient, he muttered against her collarbone, his hands ghosting across her skin, barely touching. She didn't answer, simply grabbed him through his pants, dainty fingers trying to close over his rigid shaft. Make love to me, Tachi, she pulled him up for a passionate kiss, smiling against his lips when he freed his aching length with a feral growl. Right now. Naru, I can't. I know Tachi, she smiled at him, a sincere tug of the lips because she did understand how he felt. I want you in me. She cupped his face in her hands, her breath coming out in pants as he took off the only barrier left between them. Are you sure? He wasn't doubting her, he just wanted to make sure this was what she wanted. I wouldn't even married you if I wasn't, she replied. I'm ready Tachi, she wrapped her legs around his waist, heart racing at the first touch. I need you. Uchihas prided themselves on their control over their emotions, but at that moment, Itachi didn't care about his pride or his ego. All he wanted was to make her, his wife and lifelong partner, feel good. He pushed into her tight heat, their emotions too high-strung for actual foreplay. They needed each other, to fill and be filled, to complete their union. He hesitated at her barrier but quickly overcame his fear at the thought that he was the first, the only man she'd ever let touch her in this intimate manner. It awoke his senses, primal instincts overtaking rationality. Mine, he growled as she whimpered in pain, her teeth lodged onto the juncture between his neck and shoulder, on the exact same spot where she had marked him 3 months before. Move Tachi, she said into his skin, her tongue lapping at the bite she had left on the pale shoulder. He willingly obliged, too far in to think, spurred on by the small sounds and mewls she emitted as he moved. They stayed in each other's arms throughout the night, loving each other and keeping their vows as husband and wife. Zok 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 zox. Mornin' Tachi, her voice was still laced with sleep and yet it did nothing to quell the heat that surged through him as memories of the past night assaulted his mind. Good morning, he pulled her atop him and slid into her tight heat in one smooth move. He relished in the gasp that escaped her plump lips as he rocked slowly into her, their movements languid and lazy as the sleep went out of their minds. Tachi her voice was soft and sultry as she moaned his name, his only reaction to capture her lips in a fiercely passionate kiss that was not enough to speak of their love for each other. Naru, he groaned as he rolled over so that he was on top, his action leading him to slide deeper into her, his tip grazing against the spot that made her see white. Itachi, he twined their hands and pulled them both above her head as his lips descended on her neck to remake the marks he had left there the night before. Tachi, I'm not yet Naru, he slowed his pace, cerulean orbs flashing open in disagreement. Tachi, he chuckled softly at the long-winded whine, his lips settling onto a smirk and he stopped all movement. Tell me what you want Naru, his breath ghosted across her ear, the soft flesh quivering at the heated air. I want to hear it from you. He released her hands to trail his fingers on her bare sides, goosebumps raising on the sensitive skin as electricity coursed through her veins. He trailed kisses from her ear to her jaw, leaving a trail of heat and embers as he avoided her mouth. Tachi was all she could get out, her senses overwhelmed by the sheer pleasure she was experiencing. I need to hear it from you Naru, his breath fanned her face, his lips leaning against hers in a touch that was still barely there. Kiss me Tachi, cerulean met with onyx in a clash of wills, both unafraid to bear everything for the other to see. Make love to me, she wrapped her legs around his waist, feet locking at the ankles as she pulled him towards her, both of them moaning at the friction. Make me yours, he growled, his voice deep and rumbling with possessiveness as he restarted his movements. Mine, their lips melded together, frenzied with passion as their pace quickened, hips meeting thrust for thrust, every movement perfectly matched, time to meet the others in an attempt to drive them both to their climax. I love you Tachi, her walls clenched around him, the muscles spasming with her release. He stiffened above her, his whole body going rigid as he climaxed within her, his seed flowing into her womb in thick ropey spurts. He collapsed atop her, rolling quickly to prevent from crushing her. He held her tight against his chest as their breathing slowly calmed, the sound of his pounding heartbeat lulling her into a comfortable sleep. I love you too Naru, he dropped a kiss on her golden locks, smiling softly at her even breaths as he too slipped into dreamland. Zok 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 zox. I'm sure Ka-chan won't mind watching Kaze-chan for a few more days Tachi. I know that love, but he is a part of us, especially now that we're married. I will never tire of you, but I want him to be there as well. He pulled her close to him, away from the bag that she had been packing. They'd been at the hotel for only 3 days, but he knew she couldn't stand to be away from their child for too long, and so he decided to cut their honeymoon short so they could take their child and then spend the rest of their 2-week vacation as a family. Thank you, Itachi. His reasons will never fully escape her, and he could only wonder if he really was that predictable or maybe she just knew him too well. I love you. I love you too. He kissed her chastely and pulled away quickly. Now let's go get our son, shall we? Zox. Nei-chan, what are you doing here? Deidara blinked sleepily at her older sister, his voice thick with drowsiness. I came to say hello, the elder blonde smiled at the sleepy boy. And I wanted to tell you that I wanted to spend time with Kaze-chan for the next week and a half. Okay, Nei-chan, take care. Naru smiled, but he had already fallen asleep. She turned away from the door to face the person who had knocked. Nei-chan, his bag is ready. Thank you, Q. She rose from the small bed with a final peck to her younger brother's forehead. Take care of Day and Ka-chan for me, will you? I won't be gone long. Make sure you make him take his vitamins and help out around the house and also dash. I know what I'm supposed to do, Narune. The redhead could only shake her head at her worrywart of a sister. You won't be gone for too long, and besides I can always call on Shika Nii, Gari Nii, or Kibi Nii for help. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm sorry, Q, it's just that dash. I know, Nei-chan, but it's time for you to take care of your own family. Q said as they walked down the stairs, each carrying a small bag. At least for now. Maybe I should wake Ka-chan. Naru turned to go back but was stopped by a hand on her arm. Let them rest, Nei-chan. Kaze-chan has been keeping them both up at night. I volunteered to help, but they said it was fine. When they awake I will tell them that you came to pick up your son but went on your way again. But dash. Naru, are you ready? Her husband's soft voice startled the protest from her. She hadn't even noticed that Q had led her down the stairs. Are you sure you'll be fine? Go, Nei-chan. The redhead shook her head as he watched his brother-in-law hand over his nephew. She approached the mother and child, dropped a kiss atop the boy's head and hugged her sister before ushering her out of the door. Take care of yourself, will you? She smiled back at the blonde woman. Go ahead, Naru, Itachi said as his wife hesitated by the door, obviously waiting for him. I'll just get the bags, Cerulean Medonyx, and the woman smiled. She knew what he wanted to do. She nodded and finally stepped out to wait for him by the car. Take care of everyone while we're gone, alright, Q? Of course, Aniki. She hugged the dark-haired man who had captured her sister's heart. Take care of your family and be careful. Zox. Tachi, can we visit Mari-chan? They had been driving for 2 hours going to their destination Nami no Kuni. Right now? Not right now, she shook her head as Itachi brought his attention back to the road. When we come back I want to go see her. Of course we can. Do you think we should tell Kaze-chan? Her voice was quiet and he could hear the somber note in it. About Mari-chan, what happened to her, who his real father is, that we adopted him. I don't think we should be thinking about that now. He pulled up on the side of the road so that he could focus on his weeping wife. He's barely 5 months old. I don't think he'll be asking such questions anytime soon. I want him to know about her. I want to tell him that he loved her and that he didn't want to leave her, but she couldn't stay with him because her body was too weak. I want to tell him that I'll love him even when we have our own children because he will always be my baby boy. Naru choked on a sob and her husband tried to comfort her as best as he could in the cramped space of their car. We'll tell him when the time comes. Itachi finally decided to try and alleviate his wife's feelings. When he asks questions, we'll tell him the truth because he deserves to know, and he should remember Temari as the woman who wanted to be his mother but couldn't be there. She will be known to him, we don't have to keep that a secret. What about Sai? I don't want him trying anything. Legally we have nothing to worry about, Itachi rubbed soothing circles on her back. We have documents and witnesses to prove that Temari asked both of us to become her son's parents. When Kaze asks, we'll tell him the truth of how he came to be, and despite what his mother had gone through, that she decided to keep him because she loved him already even when he was still in her womb. They kept quiet for a long moment. Itachi was unmoving as he waited for her to calm down. Her sobs went down into sniffles until she was finally silent. "I'm sorry, Tachi, I didn't want to break down like that." She hugged her child closer to her, her husband taking her hand in his as he captured her gaze. "It's all right, Naru. I want to know these things. I want you to tell me when you're scared or in doubt, and even if you're just happy. I want to know. Promise me you'll always tell me what's on your mind." He kissed the back of her hand, Onyx still meeting with cerulean. "I promise," he smiled dazzlingly at her. "We can talk once we get to the hotel. In the meantime, why don't you recline your seat and get some sleep?" "But dash. No buts, Naru, you're exhausted." "I'll be fine." He kissed her forehead as he reached beside her to pull the lever that made her seat recline. "Wake me when we get there," she whispered, and he captured her lips in a sweet kiss that had her smiling softly at him as he pulled away. "Sleep, Naru," he ordered as he pulled back onto the road. She clutched Kaze tighter against her chest while she made herself comfortable, her son's quiet breathing lulling her to sleep in no time. She had nothing to worry about, after all she had her husband by her side. Epilogue, 3 years later. "Aniki, where's Nei-chan?" She went to meet up with Kakashi-san and Kurenai-san. "What's taking so long?" "I want my cake, The cake's not for you, Deidara." The 13-year-old redhead rolled her eyes at the youngest Uzumaki's attitude. "I still want some," the blonde who had recently turned 7 pouted up at the Uchiha. "You know that doesn't work on me, Dei-chan." Itachi smiled down at the boy who sniffed haughtily before staring away. "What's wrong with you?" "Two-chan." "Hello, Deidara-kun, have you been good?" "Of course I have." "Don't believe him, Two-chan, you know he wasn't." "Hyune." "What?" "I'm only telling the truth." "Dada." The family turned back to the house to find a dark-haired, blue-eyed little boy peeking through the door. "How did you get out of your playpen, Kaze-chan?" Itachi asked his son as he strode over to him. "Dada." He raised his little hands up to him and he gladly swung him into his embrace. "Yes, I'm Dada." He kissed the boy's forehead and nuzzled his nose. "And what's your name?" "Ruto." The boy giggled jovially, patting his father's cheeks with chubby little hands. "Can Bachan hold Ruto-kun?" The red-headed woman was young and did not look like a grandmother, but Itachi passed his son on to her nonetheless. "Baba. You guys seem to be having fun already." The family turned towards the blonde woman approaching them, Itachi freezing in place. In the 3 years since they had married, they hadn't had any problems and their relationship had only gotten stronger. He knew everything there was to know about her, as did she, and so he was surprised to find her noticeably chipper and she seemed to be positively glowing. "You know we won't start without you, Nei-chan," Hugh said as she embraced her sister right around the waist and nuzzled her face into the older stomach. "Nei-chan," she pulled back in surprise and slitted red met with bright cerulean only to find that the eldest was smiling softly at her. She gave the redhead the briefest of nods and Q laughed giddily. "What took so long?" Deidara asked, pouting at the new arrivals. "Well, Hito-chan had a bit of an accident on the way here," a silver-haired man holding a dark-haired boy said. "So impatient, Dei-chan," Naru commented as she approached her husband. "How's it going?" "Very well." Lithe arms wrapped around her waist as onyx clashed with sapphire. "We've all been waiting rather impatiently." He leaned his forehead against hers, the noses touching ever so slightly. "It's been 3 years and you two still look like you've only just gotten together." Loud and rambunctious as always, Kiba made his presence known. In the time that had passed, he had barely changed, his hair had grown longer and was more unruly than ever. "Hello to you too, Kiba," Itachi drawled in perfect Uchiha finesse, looking at the brunette blandly for stealing the moment. "I'm coming, you bothersome redhead." The familiar emotionless drawl had the group staring at the couple arriving. "We're already late as it is," Gaara insisted as he dragged his boyfriend towards the gathering. "Walk faster, lazy ass." "I'd rather not," Shikamaru said in his usual lazy baritone. "I rather appreciate the view." Nara giggled at the blush her best friend now sported in response to the innuendo. Gaara dropped Shikamaru's hand rather hard, mumbling about perverted, lazy boyfriends. He marched towards the Namikaze matriarch who still held on to Kaze. Happy birthday, Kaze-chan, he greeted the boy who giggled at the attention, pointedly ignoring his boyfriend who had ambled up behind him. Those two arguing again, another presence made themselves known as Sasuke emerged from the house with Ino trailing behind him slowly. They never argue. Ino pointed out to her husband of 2 years, rubbing her belly as she did. You feeling okay today, Ino-chan? Naru broke away from her husband's embrace. I'm fine, Naru-chan. Alright, now that we're all here, why don't we get this party started? Kiba pumped his fist onto the air, Deidara cheering with him. Are Shursui and Kasumi coming? They said they'll be by sometime tonight, Itachi said as Kaze was passed back to him. Zox. Will you tell me what you needed to speak to Kakashi-san? She knew her husband was worried, but then again, if your wife wanted to speak to those within the health profession without you, you would be too. It was nothing really, she tried to play it off. Naru. I just don't know how you're going to react, and that scares me. You know there's nothing you can do that will surprise me anymore, right? You want to bet on that? She mumbled but smiled as he held her closer. They stood on the balcony of their room in the house that Itachi had bought right before they got married. What are you hiding, Naru? Well, you know that Kaze-chan turned 3 today, right? Yes, that's why we held the party. And you've noticed that I've been eating a lot more, taking plenty of naps, and that sometimes in the morning you find me in the bathroom. Naru, what are you trying to tell me? I'm pregnant, Tachi. She was tired of beating around the bush and readied herself for rejection when the man holding her stiffened in his place. Tachi, say something. You're pregnant, he'd meant to ask, but it came out more as a statement. 10 weeks along. Naru nodded. With my child. No, with Kiba's child, she rolled her eyes almost smiling to herself. Of course it's your child. It's... Annoyed at his stuttering, Itachi spun her round to face him and captured her lips in a searing kiss. Thank you. For what? For giving me my own child. It wasn't exactly planned, she shrugged as she settled herself in his embrace. You won't change with Kaze-chan, would you? No, Naru, he's still our son no matter the blood. Itachi said. But I'm so happy to give him a brother. Or a sister. He agreed and kissed her passionately once more. Thank you, Naru, for loving me and giving me a family. I love you too, she smiled brightly up at him, thinking how lucky she was. She'd never expected to be happily married by the age of 21, and yet here she stood standing with the man she loved, who just so happened to be her best friend's cousin. The end.